Chapter 345. His own happiness. I got the money. Tang Yin whispered. Thank you. Ha. Then how are you going to thank me? Linny could imagine Tang Yun's face right now. A beautiful girl standing in his yard, holding her phone carefully, talking to him in a low voice. As for how Linny knew that Tang Yun was calling from the yard, it was because he heard the sound of crickets on the other side of the phone. Tang Yun didn't know what to do from Lin Yi's words. Her breathing quickened, her face flushed, and her nose beaded with sweat. You. How should I thank you? You're the one thanking me. Why do I have to say it? Lin Yi could hear the nervousness in Tang Yun's voice and teased her. Then I'll kiss you? Tang Yun hesitated before asking timidly. Sure. Lin Yi didn't want anything from Tang Yun. He wasn't the type of person who would take advantage of others. Of course, it was a different story for people he didn't like. Tang Yun's heartbeat quickened. She was embarrassed by her own bold move. When? Lin Yi asked. You say. Tang Yun replied nervously. Then now? Lin Yi asked. Now. Tang Yun paused. How was she going to kiss now? Was it over the phone? Wasn't that just a fake kiss? Would Lin Yi have such low requirements? And go ahead. Lin Yi, of course, wanted Tang Yun to kiss him for real, but he didn't want to do it because he wanted to borrow money. You're so annoying. I'm not ready yet, Tang Yun said shyly after being surprised. When are you ready? Lin Yi smiled. Your kiss is so expensive, 200,000 in one go. Then wouldn't you go bankrupt if I kissed you a few more times? Tang Yun laughed at Lin Yi's words. Yeah, I have to calculate how many times I can be kissed with my current money, Lin Yi said seriously. Then you do it. Tang Yun humphed. Right. Why did you transfer me 200,000? Didn't your mother say that your father still needs surgery? Lin Yi said. I heard it, so I transferred an extra 50,000. Thank you. Tang Yun's tears flowed down her eyes. This was the first time she'd felt so happy that she wanted to cry. She didn't even say it, but he'd already said it for her. Was he really a gift from the heavens? All of a sudden, Tang Yun had the urge to spend the rest of her life with him. She felt that she had found the happiness that belonged to her. On the eve of her 18th and 19th birthday, it was a feeling of being cared for, protected, and held in the palm of one's hand. This moment of happiness was unforgettable. Tang Yun's hand was shaking as she held the phone. She gathered her courage and kissed the phone. All right, this is for today. I still owe you one. I'll return it to you when I'm free. With that, Tang Yun quickly hung up the phone. Her body was burning up, and her body was soaked in sweat. Phew! Tang Yun let out a long sigh of relief. She was embarrassed by her bold actions just now. She didn't dare to go back into the house immediately, afraid that her mother and the others would notice. She could only stand in the yard and calm herself down. A mosquito flew by, wanting to bite Tang Yun's fair skin. Tang Yun was so angry that she swung out her palm, wanting to kill the mosquito. Lin Yi, you're so annoying. Why are you so nice to me? I'll slap you to death. Mrs. Tang saw that Tang Yun went to the yard and didn't come back for a long time, so she told Wei to go check on his sister. Wei had just walked out of the house when he heard Tang Yun baring her fangs and claws, saying that she wanted to slap Lin Yi to death. Wei jumped as he looked at his sister. Is brother-in-law a masochist? He's so nice to you, and you want to slap him to death? What do you know, you brat? Tang Yun didn't think that Wei would come out and hear her. She was embarrassed. Hurry up and go back. Oh, I get it. Hitting is affection, scolding is love. Dan always says that too. Wei nodded in realization. Tang Yun was so embarrassed that she wanted to find a hole to hide in. Wei happily went back with Dan. Mrs. Tang had already promised them that she would go get the money for them the next morning. Wei naturally pushed the matter of selling his kidney away. In a villa on the outskirts of Songshan City, a man with tattoos all over his body received a phone call. He ran to a young man. We agreed to sell our kidneys, but that kid went back on his words. What? He went back on his words. The young man called when bro frowned. What are you doing? You can't even do such a simple thing? If the Fire Wolf gang gets angry, even my father won't be able to bear the consequences. The supply of kidneys has decreased a lot recently. If this continues, my brother's supply will far surpass us. When bro, I don't want to either. But no one is selling their kidneys anymore. People are smarter now. They won't sell their kidneys unless they need money. The tattooed man explained carefully. Are you stupid? How many kidneys could there be in such a scattered manner? When I was studying abroad, I saw a large-scale kidney trafficking organization there. If no one is selling, why don't you find someone else to do it? When bro scolded. When bro, isn't this a bit too cruel? If we get targeted by the police, we'll be in big trouble. The tattooed man was shocked when he heard When bro's suggestion. Even when DeBro was here, he didn't dare to be this reckless. DeBro, your ass. My When bro is in charge now. Don't talk about my brother all the time. When bro sneered. If he didn't trick people to sell their kidneys on a large scale, would the supply of kidneys in Songshan be so tight now? Yes. The tattooed man accidentally blurted it out. He then remembered that although Brother Do and Brother When were biological brothers, they were in a competitive relationship. If you're afraid of the police, why don't you catch those beggars and homeless people? As long as they don't die, no one will care. When bro said in disdain, who's the underground boss of Songshan? Contact him, I'll pay him a visit. The underground boss of Songshan is Li Zihua, but he doesn't make the decisions. His boss is in the provincial capital. I don't know who he is, but I heard that he's quite powerful. The tattooed man introduced. When bro, are you going to visit him tonight? Chapter 346. An uninvited guest, yes. The tattooed guy nodded respectfully. When bro, where are you going tonight? Can I give you a ride? No need, I have some private stuff to do today. When bro waved his hand. Don't follow me. Yes, when bro. I'll get you a car then? The tattooed guy asked carefully. Well, drive that Ferrari sports car out for me. Brother When ordered. Tonight, however, there was an uninvited guest in Mingyao's villa. The doorbell rang, and it was Mingyao, who was upstairs lecturing Yushu. She was very displeased with Yushu for running around naked in the house. Shu, you're 19 already, you can't do that anymore. Do you understand? I understand, Yao Yao. Yushu nodded with a smile. Look at you, you're all smiles whenever I talk about you. But in the end, that big bad guy Linny has it easy. Mingyao glared at Linny. Be careful not to let him take nude photos of you. Let's see what you'll do then. Oh. Yao Yao. Someone's ringing the doorbell downstairs. Should we go take a look? Yushu changed the topic again. What's there to look at? There's Linny running errands for us. What's the rush? Mingyao didn't think much of it. Oh. It must be Faubert delivering food. I'm hungry, let's go downstairs. Yushu held her stomach, looking like she was about to faint. I'm starving. Mingyao shook her head and pulled Yushu downstairs. Linny heard someone ringing the doorbell, so he walked out of his room to open the door. He paused when he reached the yard, because it wasn't Faubert, nor was it someone he knew. It was that Zhangwen he met at the theme park the other day. Zhangwen? Linny blinked. Why was he here? Zhangwen, on the other hand, saw that it was Lin Yi who'd come out to open the door. He was at Mingyao house. This gave Zhangwen a bad premonition. He and Mingyao had progressed to the point where they were living together? And in Mingyao's villa? Did Pingzhan know about all of this? On the surface, however, Zhangwen was still smiling warmly. He wouldn't reveal his true feelings. Oh, isn't this Mr. Lin Yi? What a coincidence, you're here too. I live here. Lin Yi glanced at him and said faintly. How could Lin Yi not hear this guy's probing tone? What a coincidence. As expected, Zhangwen's expression froze. He already had a bad feeling about this, but he was still hoping for luck. Now he was absolutely certain that Lin Yi lived here. Zhangwen clenched his fists. He'd only been abroad for 3 years. And someone else was already there? The former 4 young masters of Pine Mountain had been stolen just like that? Haha, so you're living with Yao Yao now, Mr. Lin. Zhangwen felt like his heart was bleeding. Even if he won against Lin Yi, he'd still be marrying a second-hand woman. Are you here to check on me? Lin Yi frowned. Why did this guy have so much to say? What do you want? It's like this. You and Yao Yao saved me that day, so I came to thank you. Jiang Wen forced down the unhappiness in his heart and smiled as he raised the gift in his hand to Lin Yi. Look, I still have something. Let me in first. Lin Yi smiled coldly in his heart. Thank you? You probably didn't even know I lived here a minute ago. What are you thanking me for? You're here to pick up girls, so why are you being so fake? But Lin Yi didn't expose him. What the guy was here for didn't have much to do with him. Lin Yi opened the door and let Jiang Wen in. I wonder if Mr. Chu is home? Jiang Wen asked again after entering the room. Who are you here for? Lin Yi looked at Jiang Wen with disdain. Uncle Chu doesn't live here. Go to the company if you're looking for him. Oh, he doesn't live here anymore. Jiang Wen really did want to ask where Pengzhan was. After all, Pengzhan used to live with Meng Yao before he left the country. Lin Yi ignored him and entered the villa first, letting Jiang Wen follow him. As for the gift in Jiang Wen's hand, Lin Yi wasn't in the mood to take it. It didn't matter who it was for. Meng Yao and Yushu had come downstairs by now, surprised to see Jiang Wen behind Lin Yi. Jiang Wen bro, why are you here? Meng Yao didn't like Jiang Wen very much. Jiang Wen didn't feel like the boy next door anymore. There was an indescribable dark aura around him that made Meng Yao uncomfortable. Haha, I really have to thank you and Mr. Lin at the theme park last time. I'm here to thank you, Jiang Wen said with a smile, as he placed the gift on the coffee table in the living room. It was all foreign nourishment products, and it didn't look like something for young people. Lin Yi guessed that this guy might be here to visit Pengzhan. But Pengzhan didn't live here anymore. Jiang Wen bro, when did you become so fake? You wouldn't have done this before. Meng Yao said faintly. She felt that the distance between her and Jiang Wen was getting bigger and bigger. They weren't like siblings anymore. You're telling me that you're going to do nothing if I'm sick? Haha, that's because I'm too old-fashioned. Jiang Wen felt that he hadn't thought things through. He didn't even know where Pengzhan lived before coming here. These things weren't suitable for Meng Yao, but it was even more inappropriate to take them back. But these are things I brought back from abroad. It's fresh. Oh, Yao Yao, these things are worth a lot, right? Why don't we sell them? Yushu asked curiously as she looked at the gifts on the coffee table. Shoo! Meng Yao glared at her. Even if you didn't like Jiang Wen, you still had to give him some face, right? Jiang Wen's mouth twitched. He was completely helpless against Yushu. He couldn't piss her off, and she was Meng Yao's best friend. He didn't dare piss her off. Hee. Yushu giggled, ignoring Jiang Wen as she turned on the TV. The atmosphere in the villa turned cold all of a sudden. You guys talk, I'm going back to my room. Lin Yi stood up and walked to his room. Talking to this Jiang Wen was a waste of time. Chapter 347. Image collapse. Lin Yi really wanted to yell at him. What the hell did it have to do with you where I lived? But this was Meng Yao's villa, and Lin Yi gave the miss some face. He looked at Jiang Wen and ignored him. Meng Yao, naturally, knew what Jiang Wen wanted to know, but couldn't be bothered to answer the question. But Jiang Wen evidently didn't have any self-awareness. He continued asking after Lin Yi didn't reply. Yao Yao, don't you guys sleep together at night? Meng Yao frowned, but Yushu spoke up first. I sleep with Yao Yao. Jiang Wen almost teared up at Yushu's words. He wanted to say, good person, really good person. Shoo, Jiang Wen bro has known you for so many years, and you finally said something that makes Jiang Wen bro happy. You're just too good. Jiang Wen knew that his questions were a bit inappropriate, but he had to understand the relationship between Lin Yi and Meng Yao. This was related to his love, after all. He couldn't be careless. Haha, so you're saying that Mr. Lin isn't your boyfriend? Jiang Wen could see something from Meng Yao's attitude towards Lin Yi. He felt that Lin Yi didn't seem like Meng Yao's boyfriend at all. Meng Yao frowned. Jiang Wen bro, what do you want to know? Meng Yao was getting annoyed as well. Wasn't he just trying to confirm her relationship with Lin Yi? Then I'll just tell him, and let him leave as soon as he understands. Didn't Shu tell you very clearly last time? The more Meng Yao said, the more confused Jiang Wen got. Where did this Lin Yi come from? Was he really Meng Yao's boyfriend or not? To be honest, Jiang Wen didn't really believe Yushu's words. After all, The girl didn't even bat an eyelid when it came to lying. She said something about bodyguard and shield last time, and that had a lot of different meanings. Jiang Wen didn't have the time to think about it last time at the theme park restaurant, but the way Meng Yao and Lin Yi looked at each other, and didn't seem like a couple at all. So Yushu was saying that Lin Yi was just Meng Yao's bodyguard? Or was it a shield to drive away those suitors? The more Jiang Wen thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. He wanted to pay a visit and get some information from Pengzhan, but Pengzhan wasn't here. He could only start from the person in question. I'm just asking casually. I don't have any other intentions. I'm just helping you check on him. Jiang Wen smiled. You're my lil sis, of course I'll help you take a look at your boyfriend. Oh, then take a look. Meng Yao was very annoyed. Jiang Wen hadn't been this annoying before. So why was he so impatient after coming back from abroad? Meng Yao could feel that Jiang Wen had feelings for her before. But Jiang Wen had never been this impatient before. Of course, Meng Yao misunderstood Jiang Wen. Jiang Wen was impatient because he saw his love rival. There weren't any suitors around Meng Yao that could be a rival. So Jiang Wen wasn't impatient at all. He thought that Meng Yao would be his sooner or later. And it didn't matter if it was sooner or later. But now it was different. Lin Yi's appearance had completely messed up Jiang Wen's plans. He couldn't help but panic. From the looks of it, Lin Yi and Meng Yao didn't have a deep relationship yet. If he didn't panic now, wouldn't he be giving up? Haha, alright. If that's the case, I'll invite Mr. Lin Yi out for dinner tomorrow night. I want to thank him for saving my life. And I also want to help you check on him. Jiang Wen said. Yao, what do you think? Give your guy a break. He can go if he wants. What does it have to do with me? Meng Yao said nonchalantly. Alright, I'll go talk to him. Jiang Wen heard Meng Yao's words and felt relieved. Meng Yao didn't care about Lin Yi at all. It meant that the two weren't as close as he thought. With that, Jiang Wen stood up and walked towards Lin Yi's room. He knocked on the door, and Lin Yi opened it to see Jiang Wen. What do you need? Haha, it's like this. Are you free tomorrow night? I'll treat you to dinner to express my gratitude. Jiang Wen smiled as he patted Lin Yi's shoulder. What do you think, Mr. Lin? Do me the honor? You're treating me to dinner? Lin Yi looked at Jiang Wen like he was an idiot. Do you have too much money to burn? I'm not going. Jiang Wen was a little embarrassed by Lin Yi's words. Mr. Lin, Yao agreed to it. Are you saying that because you're afraid that she won't? That was what he said. But Jiang Wen was feeling a little disdainful inside. Who the hell was this guy? Trying to steal Meng Yao from me? If I don't show you what I'm capable of, you country bumpkin wouldn't know your place. Oh, the miss agreed? Lin Yi paused and looked at Meng Yao. She nodded at him. Lin Yi had no choice but to say, Alright, tomorrow then. Where are we eating? Meng Yao actually didn't want Lin Yi to eat with Jiang Wen. Whether they ate or not had nothing to do with Meng Yao. The problem was that she was really annoyed with Jiang Wen. He kept asking questions in front of her. She might as well let him ask Lin Yi tomorrow. She needed to leave as soon as possible. She still needed to rest. Tomorrow night at 6. I'll wait for you here on time. We'll decide on the location tomorrow. Jiang Wen was even more confused. This Lin Yi didn't seem like someone who took orders from others. Why did he agree without a second thought when Meng Yao asked him to go? Could it be that this guy was really just a bodyguard and not Meng Yao's boyfriend? At that thought, Jiang Wen felt that it was very possible. Yushu's words couldn't be trusted, and Lin Yi might really have nothing to do with Meng Yao. Oh, okay. Lin Yi nodded. If this guy wanted to treat, then so be it. He'd eat his way out of the house tomorrow. How about I bring a brother with me? Sure, no problem. Jiang Wen nodded, agreeing to it. After getting Lin Yi's answer, Jiang Wen was satisfied. Chapter 348. Just who was her brother? Jiang Wen was making Meng Yao feel really bored and confused right now. Who was Lin Yi? That was her personal business. What did it have to do with him? Checking up on her? Did she need him checking up on her? Geez, I thought you had some ulterior motive for asking me to eat with him. Lin Yi was a little speechless. I shouldn't have said yes if I'd known. Well, it's fine. You go teach him a lesson tomorrow. He's been an eyesore for a long time now. Yushu raised her fist. He's nothing much, but he's so cocky. thinking that the song's Han Young Master title's something. Isn't he just picking the biggest one out of the bunch? Shoo, your brother's the head of the song's Han Young Masters, Meng Yao said as she looked at Yushu speechless. My brother? I don't think he's as strong as Shield Bro. He can't even handle that Lingshan girl. One word from Shield Bro, and that song girl's so obedient, Yushu said excitedly at the mention of Lingshan. Shu, why do I get the feeling that Yutian isn't your real brother, but Linny is? Meng Yao frowned. Her best friend couldn't have fallen for Linny, could she? She was talking about Linny every time she opened her mouth, getting touched, kissed, and hugged by him. And she didn't feel any disgust towards him at all. Was Shu falling for him? Hee. Of course he's my real brother. I admire him a lot. But he's just too weak in front of women. Wouldn't Song Girl give in to him if he were a little tougher? Yushu said with a smile, not caring at all. Shu, you're a girl too. Do you want to be a strict husband in the future? Or do you have masochistic tendencies? Meng Yao said. She was a girl, but she was speaking up for a man. What kind of logic was that? Yao, I just want Shield Bro to break that Jangwen spirit tomorrow. Yushu said. Oh, I misspoke, Jangwen Bro. Linny ignored the two girls and yawned before going back to his room to sleep. Shield Bro, I support you. I'll wait for your good news tomorrow night. Yushu called out. Shu, you know Jangwen's family background. You're just causing trouble for Lin Yi. Meng Yao frowned helplessly. He's not Zhong Pingliang. Not someone Lin Yi can deal with easily. What if something happens to Lin Yi if you drag him into this? Meng Yao may have been indifferent towards Lin Yi on the surface, even a little disgusted, but she wasn't an unreasonable person. Plus, she didn't hate Lin Yi living in this house anymore. Naturally, she wouldn't cause trouble for him, although her father had kept it a secret from her and didn't tell her what Lin Yi had been up to these past 2 days. She still knew a little about the crisis her father was facing. Lin Yi had solved it all quietly, so how could she cause more trouble for him? Yao, are you worried? Yushu's eyebrows and eyes turned into crescents as she smiled at Meng Yao. My heart aches. Why would I? Meng Yao humphed. He's our follower, and now that he's pissed off Jangwen, of course we'll have to protect him when Jangwen comes looking for trouble. So if you let him go looking for trouble, you'll be looking for trouble for us. Oh, it's fine. I'll deal with Jangwen Bro next time. Yushu took it all on. She was quite good at dealing with Jangwen. Alright, let's go to sleep. Meng Yao yawned as well. It was already past 10, and Jangwen had been dawdling for more than an hour. Meng Yao was tired to death. The next day, when Lin Yi saw Kong Xiaobo, the kid was overjoyed. Boss, you're back. I was afraid that you wouldn't make it to my second grandpa's birthday party. I won't, I said 2 days, so it's 2 days. It's only Thursday, there's still a few days left. Right, is it Saturday or Sunday? Lin Yi asked. Sunday, but it's not in the city. We'll leave early on Saturday. My second grandpa's house is in Donghai, Kong Xiaobo said. Alright, we'll leave Saturday afternoon then. Lin Yi nodded. Right, how's Fun? She can leave the hospital now. Her body was too weak due to malnutrition. I'm going to get her discharged this afternoon, Kong Xiaobo said. My parents are coming with me on Saturday, and I don't know how to tell them about Fun. I don't know if they'll accept it. I don't think that's important. What's important is what you think. Lin Yi waved his hand. Xiaobo, do you really like Fun? Tell me the truth. Kong Xiaobo hesitated. Nonsense. Why would I ask you if you don't tell me the truth? Lin Yi glared at him. To be honest, when I first saw her picture, I was just moved. After all, it's normal to want to pursue a beautiful girl. Kong Xiaobo scratched his head in embarrassment. Just like how I used to like Tang Yun, Chu Mingyao, and Chen Yushu. But I know that it's just a fantasy. None of them will like me. If it wasn't for you, Tang Yun might not even recognize me now. I liked Fun. At first, I sympathized with her because she's too pitiful and lovable. So, I couldn't help but want to give her more care and love. It's just that after a long time, I went to the hospital every day to accompany her, talk to her, and eat with her. I gradually got used to this feeling. If I don't see her for a day, I'll miss her. I think I can confirm that I like her. Do you like her or love her? Lin Yi asked. Is there a difference? Kong Xiaobo shook his head blankly. Maybe there's a difference. Lenny sighed. He used to like a girl, the kind that he liked very much. She was Xiaoning. People say that you can sacrifice anything for love. So Lenny sometimes thought that his feelings for Xiaoning couldn't be considered love. But if it wasn't love, why would he always think of her? Was it the rules of the industry that restricted him? He had to abide by his professional ethics. Or he didn't have the courage to take that step. Maybe it was both. Or, he couldn't give Xiaoning the life she wanted. At least he couldn't give it back then. But now, Lenny shook his head. Although he knew that escaping wasn't the solution, he had chosen to escape all these years. It was even more impossible for Lin Yi to take that step. Chapter 349. Tang Yun's Treat. There are two ways. Lin Yi's thoughts were pulled back to reality by Kong Xiaobo's words. He shook his head, not wanting to think about those things anymore. At the very least, there was a huge disparity between his status and Xiaoning's. Although he had 100 million and a share of Pengzhan Industries, it was nothing compared to Xiaoning's family background. What way? Kong Xiaobo was overjoyed. First, you tell them the truth, and try to get their understanding, Lin Yi said. I don't think that's possible. Kong Xiaobo's face was bitter. I wouldn't be worried if I could convince them. Second, don't say that Xiaofan is your girlfriend. Just say that she's your classmate. I won't bring Tang Yun, and Xiaofan will come with me. They won't suspect anything then. Lin Yi said. That's a good idea. But if Tang Yun doesn't go, can Xiaofan go? Kong Xiaobo was hesitant. That depends on what you tell Xiaofan. Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder. Let's go to the classroom. Pin Liang was very depressed today. He knew that his uncle had left Pengzhan Industries, and he didn't know how he felt about his uncle's failure. Was it disappointment, or was it something else? Pin Liang realized that he was even a little excited. Subconsciously, he didn't want Pengzhan's position to be taken away by his uncle. If that happened, even if he got Mengyao, House Zhong would just be his uncle's subsidiary. But now if he got Mengyao, House Zhong would soar. Mengyao was Pengzhan's only daughter, and he would become his only son-in-law. How could he not transfer some of the shares to him? And so, thinking about his bright future, Pin Liang was filled with hope and fighting spirit. However, he didn't know where to start. He couldn't write the letter of blood. Every time he wrote it, he would lose a lot of blood. If this continued, he would lose too much blood and faint. Xiaofu, on the other hand, didn't dare come up with any random ideas. Pin Liang had asked him a couple of times, but Xiaofu kept saying that he'd think of something else. The two of them sank into depression once more. And it seemed like they wouldn't be harassing Mengyao again until they came up with a plan. During the last class of the morning, Lin Yi received a message from Tang Yun asking him what he was doing at noon. Lin Yi replied with a text message telling her that he had nothing to do at noon and asked if she was busy. Tang Yun replied after a while. Want to go to the cafeteria together? Huh? Lin Yi couldn't help but smile as he looked at Tang Yun's message. Did Tang Yun finally open up to him? Did he take the initiative to ask me out for a meal? Although part of it was because of the 200,000 yuan yesterday. If Tang Yun didn't accept him from the bottom of her heart, she wouldn't take the initiative to ask him out for a meal. Tang Yun wanted to borrow money, and he believed that as long as she asked, there would be a lot of rich secret admirers in the school who would take the initiative to ask her out. At noon, Kong Xiaobo was going to the hospital to handle the discharge procedures for Xiaofan. He also wanted to talk about going to the birthday party this weekend. Lin Yi, on the other hand, accepted Tang Yun's invitation and came to the shade of a tree next to the field. Tang Yun didn't want to wait in front of the cafeteria, so she asked Lin Yi to wait here. This was the place where the two of them had their first date. It wasn't really a date, but Tang Yun had some special feelings for this place. It was also at that time that Lin Yi held her hand and announced in front of Zhou Ruoming and Wang Jifeng that she was his woman. Tang Yun was a bit nervous. She held the meal card in her hand and couldn't sit still. The 5th class in the morning was a test. Tang Yun handed in her paper first and waited under the tree. She waited for a long time, but she didn't see Lin Yi. Tang Yun looked at her phone. Could it be that Lin Yi sent her a text and she didn't receive it? But it didn't seem possible. Just as Tang Yin was getting anxious, she saw a boy running towards her. Tang Yin smiled and waved at Lin Yi. If it was before, Tang Yin wouldn't dare to do something like this in school. The school rules were very strict. But now, the school rules were useless in front of Tang Yin. Wang Jifeng didn't even care about her and Lin Yi. What was there for her to be afraid of? Tang Yin even had a little rebellious in her heart. She had been a good student for so many years, and she could finally let loose like those bad students. Did you wait long? Lin Yi saw a layer of sweat on Tang Yin's forehead. It was obvious that she had waited for a while. Not really. The last class was a test, so I handed in my paper first, Tang Yin said shyly as she combed her hair. Then why didn't you text me? I would have come out earlier. He'd gotten used to skipping class. The dean had already given him a warning, and the teachers of the other subjects didn't bother with him, thinking that he was some rich young master who was here to kill time. It's fine. Tang Yin shook her head. I'll treat you. You treat me? Lin Yi looked at Tang Yin surprised. Don't look at me like that. I can only treat you to the cafeteria. Tang Yin raised the cafeteria card in her hand. All the money at home was used for my dad's surgery. Although there might be some left over, it's hard to say if we still need money in the future. So, if you want me to treat you to a big meal, we'll have to wait until I earn my own money. Ah, no, my cafeteria card has a lot of money in it. It's the same if you use mine. It'll be a waste if you don't eat. Lin Yi took out the card from his pocket and gave it to Tang Yin. How's uncle's condition? Tang Juqing's problem was with his bones, and he needed surgery. Although Lin Yi was good at acupuncture and medicine, he couldn't perform surgery for Tang Juqing on behalf of the hospital. Why are you giving me your card? Tang Yin paused. My mom took my dad to the hospital early in the morning. He should be in the hospital now, but he's been checked regularly, and he's just waiting for surgery. I don't usually eat at the cafeteria, and I'll eat with you in the future, so I'm giving you my card. Lin Yi said. Is there anything I can help with at the hospital? I don't think so. Tang Yin shook her head, her eyes red. Lin Yi, thank you. I don't know how I can thank you. Tang Yin was really touched. Lin Yi didn't take the opportunity to threaten her, and he didn't make things difficult for her either. Why are you saying this? Lin Yi held Tang Yin's hand. Let's go eat. Chapter 350. Chapter 350. Ward and surgery. Lin Yi and Tang Yin's relationship had spread throughout the school. Their relationship wasn't a secret anymore, and Lin Yi announced that Tang Yin was his woman in front of Wang Jifeng. This kind of shocking effect made all the guys and girls who had secret relationships jealous. Quite a number of girls told their boyfriends that they'd be willing to do anything if their boyfriends could confess to them in front of Wang Jifeng like Lin Yi did. The male students who had bad intentions wanted to turn into Lin Yi immediately, but no one dared to do so after thinking about the consequences of confessing. If Lin Yi said it, it would be fine, but if she said it, she'd probably be expelled. Before, Tang Yin felt embarrassed, but after hearing the rumors from the students, she felt very happy. At least, many people were envious of her. Even Zhou Ruoming, who used to flirt with her, would walk around her now. This was all because of Lin Yi. Of course, Zhou Ruoming wasn't much, but what made everyone envious was that even Wang Jifeng would smile and nod at Tang Yin when he saw her. It was hard for Tang Yin to imagine that this was still the same dean who'd scolded her so badly after she'd splashed water all over him. In fact, Wang Jifeng couldn't say it out loud. Tang Yin was Lin Yi's girlfriend. Who knew how far they had progressed? Did they even go to a hotel? What if Lin Yi remembered the scene that morning and told Tang Yin about it? Wouldn't Tang Yin know about it? So Wang Jifeng didn't dare to offend Tang Yin. He was even more afraid that Tang Yin would hate him because of that incident. That was why he was so kind to her. The phone in Tang Yin's pocket vibrated. Tang Yin froze. Only Lin Yi, Kang Xiaobo, Lu Xinwen, Xiaofan and her parents knew her number. She was with Lin Yi right now. Who could it be? Wait, let me take a call. Tang Yin pulled her hand out of Lin Yi's grip and took out her phone from her pocket. It was her mother's number. Mom should know that I'm at school. Why would she call me at this time? Tang Yin was confused but still picked up the phone. Hello. Mom? Are you at school? Mrs. Tang asked anxiously. Yeah, I'm at school. I'm about to go to the cafeteria for lunch. What's the matter? Tang Yun was confused after hearing her mother's tone. Are you with Lin Yi? Mrs. Tang asked. Tang Yun was even more shocked. Her mother called to ask about this? Asking me if I've been with Lin Yi. Although it was funny, Tang Yun still said shyly. Yeah. Yes. That's good. Mrs. Tang sighed in relief. Here's the thing. Go talk to Lin Yi. Doesn't he know someone from the hospital? Ask him to help you find someone. Tang Yun wasn't happy after hearing her mother's request. He's already lent us the money. Just go to the hospital for the surgery. What's the point of looking for someone? Isn't it troublesome enough? You don't know how crowded the wards are. If you don't know anyone, you'll have to sleep in the hallway. You don't want your dad to sleep in the hallway, do you? Mrs. Tang heard about Lin Yi asking for a ward for Xiaofan. Also, I want to find an orthopedic doctor for your dad's surgery, but his schedule is up. He only does 2 surgeries a week. It's already booked for the second half of the year. Can you talk to Lin Yi and ask him to cut the queue for your dad? Tang Yun sighed in her heart. She didn't want to trouble Lin Yi anymore. But her mother was telling the truth. She wouldn't have to worry about finding a good doctor to operate on her dad. Lin Yi was very close to Tang Yun. When she answered the phone, he smelled the fragrance on her white neck. It made Tang Yun uncomfortable. She wanted to push Lin Yi away to stop him, but her mother's words distracted Tang Yun. She forgot to scold Lin Yi. However, Lin Yi heard Mrs. Tang's words clearly. Before Tang Yun could say anything, Lin Yi took Tang Yun's phone. I'll talk to Auntie. Tang Yun knew that Lin Yi heard it. If he picked up the phone, it meant that he was willing to help. She couldn't help but look at Lin Yi gratefully. Auntie, I'm Lin Yi. I heard what you said. Lin Yi smiled. It's nothing. It's not a problem. Tang Yin blushed a little. She was talking to her mother on the phone, and Lin Yi overheard their conversation. How close was she to Lin Yi? Her mother wouldn't think too much, right? In fact, Mrs. Tang thought too much. She thought that her daughter and Lin Yi were hugging each other. However, she didn't reprimand her daughter. Instead, she was even happier. Mrs. Tang was extremely satisfied with Lin Yi. Hearing Lin Yi agree, she was immediately happy. That's great. Lin, I'll wait for your good news. Okay, I'll make a call now. Tell me the name of the chief physician. Lin Yi smiled. The hospital room wasn't a problem. Feng was going to be discharged today. He could just give the room to Tang Jicheng. The chief physician is called Su Tianda, Mrs. Tang said. If it doesn't work, we can find the deputy chief physician. Okay, I'll try. He ended the call with Mrs. Tang and called Guan Shuamin, not bothering with pleasantries. Guan Shuamin made a note of Su Tianda's name, agreeing to it without hesitation. Okay, it's done, Lin Yi said to Tang Yin. You can call your mother now. Okay, thank you. Tang Yin didn't know what to say. What else could she say other than thank him? Don't thank me next time. It feels distant. Let's meet Grandpa Guan on Sunday. Right, Guan Xian's grandfather, Lin Yi said. Ah, Guan Xian's grandfather? Tang Yin didn't know why, but she felt a little disappointed. Thinking about the relationship between Guan Xian and Lin Yi, Tang Yin felt a little jealous. Was this jealousy? Tang Yin shook her head. She didn't think that she would feel jealous one day. Tang Yun's phone rang again, before she could call her mother. She picked it up and heard her mother's excited voice. It's done. You don't know, but Dean Qin arranged it himself. Director Su said that he'll arrange an additional surgery next Monday. Seeing that no one was looking, she let out a sigh of relief. But now it wasn't a matter of whether she hated Lin Yi or not. It was a matter of whether Lin Yi hated her or not. She didn't eat much and was already full. The rest of the rice would be Lin Yi's. He must eat the part that she ate. Did this count as an indirect kiss? Tang Yin felt like she had a little white rabbit in her arms. She jumped up and down. She was a little shy, but also a little excited. She thought about what she said on the phone last night. She still owed him a kiss. In what form, and in what way would this kiss be given to him? Back in the hospital, Lin Yi only asked Tang Yin to kiss his face. But now that their relationship was a step closer, Would he kiss her on the mouth? Tang Yin didn't dare to think about it, but she didn't feel any repulsion. She used to feel disgusted when she saw the male and female characters kissing. If a man kissed her on the mouth, she would feel disgusted. But now, she didn't feel like vomiting. Instead, she was looking forward to it. Linny was afraid that Tang Yin wouldn't have enough to eat, so he ate very slowly. But after Tang Yin finished eating, he cleaned up everything on the table. Tang Yin was stunned. Are you full? Tang Yin didn't think that Linny had such a big appetite. He didn't look fat, but he ate so much. I'm full, Linny nodded. Then, let's go back to class? Tang Yin didn't want to leave Linny like this. Let's walk around the field. Linny stood up and picked up the plates. He walked out of the cafeteria with Tang Yin and left the plates at the door. The bright afternoon sun made Tang Yin squint her eyes. She put her hand in front of her forehead to block the sunlight. She looked at the students playing on the field. She felt a sense of happiness. She met Lin Yi when she was about to leave the school. Tang Yin wanted to cheer, but there was a sense of unease in her heart. It was as if Lin Yi didn't belong to her. The happiness in front of her was short-lived. In her daze, a big hand grabbed onto Tang Yin's. Tang Yin came back to her senses. She hesitated for a moment before grabbing onto the big hand. Which university do you want to go to? This was the first time Tang Yin worried about their future. She was afraid that this happiness would disappear in the blink of an eye. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. Lin Yi shook his head. He would go wherever Meng Yao went. There was no doubt about that. He smiled to make Tang Yin feel at ease. I'll go wherever you go. Yeah. Tang Yin smiled as she welcomed the sunlight. Her heart was finally at ease, but she was still worried. What if one of us doesn't get enough points? We can spend money. Lin Yi shrugged. Your worries are unnecessary. Nouveau riche. Tang Yin said with a smile, but she was happy that Lin Yi was taking her seriously. The two of them walked under the shade of the tree and found a stone step to sit down. Tang Yin seemed to have a special liking for the shade. She always liked to come here. She supported her chin with her hand and enjoyed the peace. Lin Yi stretched lazily and stayed by Tang Yin's side quietly. But this brief moment of peace, someone wanted to destroy it. Chapter 352. Does she like you? Yao Yao, let's go sit under the shade for a bit? Yushu suggested with a naughty smile. What for? Watch that Lin Yi hit on girls? Meng Yao frowned as she looked at Lin Yi and Tang Yin sitting together. She didn't like it at all. It was daytime, wasn't it? It was a work day too. And you're messing around with the school beauty instead of being my follower. She and Shu were both school beauties, so why did this guy only have eyes for Tang Yin? She was his boss, the miss. Even if he had a crush on someone, it should be her first. Meng Yao felt like she had been wronged. Was she that unattractive? Meng Yao didn't even care if he liked her or not, but the fact that he was ignoring her and going after another girl pissed her off. It was a blatant disregard. Even if he didn't like her, couldn't he just go for Shu? Why did he have to go for Tang Yin? Although one had to admit that Lin Yi and Tang Yin in their school uniform really did look like a couple from afar. Perhaps they were a couple after all. Haha, let's see how he hits on girls. We'll learn from him. Yushu nodded. Shu, we're girls, we can't hit on girls. Our sexual orientation is fine. Otherwise we'd be a couple a long time ago. Meng Yao looked at Yushu speechlessly. Oh, let's go see Tang Yin then. Let's learn how to hit on handsome guys. Yushu was just finding an excuse to keep Meng Yao company, to satisfy her curiosity. Is Lin Yi a handsome guy? Do I even need to hit on him? Meng Yao curled her lips. I don't like him at all. But she still walked towards Lin Yi with Yushu despite her words. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile bitterly when he saw the two misses walking towards him. These two girls were probably here to cause trouble. And it seemed like Yushu had tricked Meng Yao into coming here. With her personality, there was no way she'd get involved in something like this. Yao Yao sis, the shade here is very cool. Yushu pulled Meng Yao to the steps under the tree. But the steps were occupied by Lin Yi and Tang Yin. Yushu didn't have a place to sit. Hey Arrow, move over a little, give me the shade. Yushu almost said shield bro when she opened her mouth, but luckily she stopped herself in time. She couldn't expose her relationship with Lin Yi in front of outsiders, or Yao Yao would be pissed. Tang Yun was a little annoyed by Yushu's overbearing words. We were under the tree first, why should we give it to you? But a few days ago when she went to see Lin Yi, Yushu had asked her about it passionately, so Tang Yun didn't want to get angry. But Lin Yi didn't seem to hear anything, and didn't move an inch. Tang Yun, on the other hand, was starting to panic. Lin Yi's reputation had surpassed the Big Four, but even the Big Four didn't dare mess with Yushu. She was an existence that transcended the Big Four, and even Pinliang and Zhou Ruoming were quite afraid of her. Tang Yun had heard about how Wu Xiaoqin had been punished for talking bad about Yushu, and so she was a little afraid that Yushu would take revenge on Lin Yi. Why don't we go? Don't mind them. Lin Yi had already guessed that Yushu was here to mess around, and he didn't want to bother with her. He'd leave her alone for now, and she'd leave later if she got bored. Yushu was a little depressed that Lin Yi didn't work, but she didn't want to expose her relationship with Lin Yi. She could only look at Mingyao pitifully. There's a tree over there, let's sit there. Mingyao wouldn't fight with Lin Yi like Yushu did. Yao Yao, but I like it here. Yushu didn't want to leave. She hadn't heard what Lin Yi and Tang Yun were talking about yet. Then you stay here, I'm leaving. Mingyao felt a little awkward. What was she supposed to do when Lin Yi was hitting on a girl here? Oh okay, Yushu said as Mingyao started walking away. She could only follow her to the shade on the other side of the tree. Mingyao found a clean stair and sat down. She took out her MP4 and started watching an episode of Pleasant Goat and Big Big Wolf. With Yushu on the other hand, kept her eyes on the MP4, and glanced at Lin Yi from time to time. She wanted to see what he was doing, but he was still as lazy as ever. He wasn't flirting with Tang Yun either. She lost interest and turned her attention back to Mingyao's MP4. What are they doing? Why are they acting so weird? Tang Yun didn't understand what was going on with Yushu. She came over to scold Lin Yi, and then left. What was going on? You mean Yushu? Don't bother with her. That girl is always crazy. Who knows what she's doing all day long? Lin Yi shrugged. Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi oddly. Her instincts told her that Lin Yi was hiding something from her, but she didn't know what it was. Are you close with her? She's in our class, of course I'm close. Lin Yi nodded vaguely. Oh, she likes you? Tang Yun's words were shocking. Wah! Lin Yi's eyes went wide as he looked at Tang Yun shocked. What did you say? She likes me? Yushu did confess to him, but it was all fake. He didn't think that Yushu would like him. The girl was a little immature, probably not at the stage where she'd like guys yet, right? Yushu was a little too young for that. It's nothing. Tang Yun shook her head. It was just a sudden feeling. She thought that Yushu coming and leaving for no reason was weird, but it didn't make sense. How could she like Lin Yi? Yushu and Mingyao weren't too far. Lin Yi was in no mood at all. He felt like he was being watched by his boss. He stood up dispiritedly. Let's go back to class. Okay. Tang Yun felt embarrassed with two people watching them. She stood up after hearing Lin Yi's words. She walked towards the school building with Lin Yi. Yao Yao. Shield bro left. Yushu had been watching Lin Yi the whole time. Let's leave then. Mingyao frowned as she looked at her MP4. Chapter 353. Chapter 353. The misconcern after school. Lin Yi drove Tang Yun to the hospital before driving back to the villa. Zhang Wen's car was already waiting outside the villa. Lin Yi parked the car in front of the villa and greeted Mingyao. Mingyao was the one who agreed to the dinner with Zhang Wen tonight, so she didn't say anything. Mingyao spoke up suddenly when Lin Yi walked to the door. Don't drink so much, and don't go to those dirty places. Lin Yi paused. He didn't think that Mingyao would care about people. Her tone was commanding, but Lin Yi could hear the concern in her voice. It's nothing, do whatever you want. Mingyao turned her head away, ignoring Lin Yi. Mingyao could vaguely guess what Zhang Wen was planning to do. Mingyao didn't usually participate in the activities of these rich kids, but she had some understanding of their methods, especially with a little spy like Yushu. She wasn't a stranger to what Zhang Wen and his people were doing. This was also why Mingyao didn't have any other feelings for Zhang Wen other than that of a sister. Drinking and playing with women all day. And now he wanted her as his girlfriend? Why? Ha, don't worry. I'm actually a good girl. Lenny smiled and left the villa. Shield bro, you go teach those two a lesson. I'll cheer for you. Make sure to embarrass them. Yushu waved her fist. I'll try my best. Lenny nodded. Even if Yushu didn't say anything, Lenny would have taught this annoying Jangwon a lesson anyway. He didn't want him to bother him all the time. After Lenny left, Yushu spoke up. Yao Yao, I have some big news for you. Oh, what did you hear when you went out? Mingyao sent Yushu out as a spy again. Lenny could sense her, but Jangwon might not be able to. So Yushu heard everything Jangwon said. Jangwon bro and Taizao bro said that they're going to order a chicken for Shield bro. And they're going to record it and mail it to your dad to ruin his reputation. Then you can break up with him. Yushu said. Chicken? Mingyao blinked, ordering a chicken? Only then did she realize that Yushu was using a demonstrative pronoun. She thought it was a dish from the restaurant. She blushed and said, Shu, don't say such ugly words. Call her miss. Oh, that's a prostitute. They went to find a prostitute for Shield bro. Yushu nodded. Yao Yao, do you think we should tell Shield bro to be careful? No need. If he's that stupid to fall for it, he can only blame himself for being too perverted. It's just right for daddy to fire him. Mingyao humphed, thinking that Jangwon was really filthy. She wondered if Yushu's brother was the same as them in the past. Lenny walked out of the villa and saw a Porsche 911 behind Jangwon's Ferrari. Beside the car was Su Taizao, the guy he met at the theme park restaurant the other day. Lenny didn't have a good impression of Taizao. The guy was yelling and screaming that day, and Lenny didn't like it at all. But now, the guy was all smiles as he greeted Lenny. Mr. Lenny, it's nice to see you. Thank you for what you did for Bro that day. Lenny waved his hand and ignored him. Jangwon walked up to him. Bro Lin, I didn't expect you to be in the same class as Yao Yao. Jangwon had already found out that Lin Yi was Mingyao's classmate, so it was natural for him to call him Lil Bro Lin according to their age. Ah, I guess so. Lenny nodded faintly. Aren't we going to eat? That's right, let's go now. I've booked a room at Starlight Hotel. Let's go now. Jangwon introduced, worried that Lenny didn't know about it. Starlight Hotel is one of the most luxurious hotels in the city. We used to go there a lot. There's special services too. Taizao walked over as well, patting Lin Yi's shoulder like a family member, as if saying that they were both men, and they had a tacit understanding. Is that so? I'll have to see it then. Lin Yi nodded, looking at them expectantly. He was smiling coldly inwardly. Mingyao was right, these two were up to no good, trying to set a trap for him. Jangwon breathed out in relief when he saw that Lin Yi didn't reject the idea. Taizao, on the other hand, was overjoyed. He was worried that Lin Yi wouldn't agree, but it'd be great if he did. There were plenty of programs, and he wasn't afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't be satisfied. But you'd have to pay a price for it after it's over. Haha. Let's go now. Do you want to take my car? Jangwon pointed at his Ferrari. It's fine, I'll drive myself. Lin Yi pointed at his broken van. Jangwon paused, not expecting Lin Yi to drive a broken van instead of a sports car. But since Lin Yi was willing, he didn't say anything. Sure, it's more convenient if we have our own car. Jangwon and Taizao got on the car and drove towards Starlight Hotel, with Lin Yi following behind. Starlight Hotel was one of the most luxurious hotels in Songshan, after all. It had dining, entertainment, karaoke and nightclubs in one place. Just the parking lot alone was as big as a field. Jangwon and Taizao drove the car into the parking lot, and Lin Yi followed them in, only to be stopped by a security guard. Hey, delivery through the back door. The guard glared at Lin Yi. Don't you know the rules? You're new, right? Delivery? Lin Yi paused, knowing that the guard had misunderstood. He shook his head. I'm here to eat. Eat. The guard paused at Lin Yi's words before laughing out loud. You're driving this car to eat? Do you know what the lowest price is here? One meal is enough to buy this car of yours. Alright, stop messing around, let's go. I'm really here to eat. Lin Yi didn't want to argue with this snobbish guard. I don't care what the lowest price is here, someone's paying. Someone's paying? Who'd treat you? Alright, stop acting cool and get the fuck out. I've seen a lot of people like you. There's at least 8 or 10 of them every day, trying to steal something from the parking lot? The guard looked at Lin Yi with disdain. Who'd treat you unless they're retarded? Chapter 354. Chapter 354. Jiang Wen's ploy after all. The people he interacted with were all rich people, and it was only natural for him to feel a sense of superiority. He felt like he was the cream of the crop, and he looked down on the poor. The security guard would bow and scrape to those who drove luxurious cars. But Lin Yi's old car made him think that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Who the hell are you calling an idiot? Taizao slapped the guard's face. He and Jiang Wen had parked the car, and since they hadn't seen Lin Yi following them, they ran to the entrance of the parking lot, only to hear the guard calling him and bro idiots. Taizao was furious. The guard didn't know why Taizao had hit him, but he saw that Taizao had branded clothes all over him, and that he'd come from the parking lot as well. He was a VIP here, and he didn't want to piss him off. I wasn't calling you an idiot. You're still fucking lying? Taizao slapped the guard again. I'm treating him to a meal, and you're calling me an idiot? You think I didn't hear that? The guard froze, not expecting someone to treat someone with a broken van. Jiang Wen walked over as well, frowning. What's wrong, Taizao? This guard is calling us idiots. Does he want to die? Taizao was very pissed off. He and bro used to be the Songshan 4 young masters back in the day, and all the security guards and managers of the entertainment venues knew them. Now this guard didn't even know who he was, and was even insulting him. How could he not be pissed? Forget it. Jiang Wen waved his hand faintly. He was pissed as well, but he had business to attend today. He didn't have time to deal with this guard. Let's go, don't lower yourself to a small fry like him. The guard bowed and apologized profusely. He was very respectful to Jiang Wen and Taizao, but when he raised his head, he glared venomously at Lin Yi. He didn't think that Lin Yi was a rich person. Looking at Lin Yi, he was just a poor student who drove a broken van. He didn't know how good he was at it. As a result, he didn't dare offend Jiang Wen and Taizao. He wanted to vent his anger on Lin Yi. After thinking for a while, he went to puncture his tires. Anyway, the parking lot was so big, and he didn't know who did it. He could only blame it on his bad luck. With Lin Yi's keen senses, how could he not feel this little security guard's hatred? However, he didn't care and said lightly, "You keep an eye on the car for me. If there's a problem with the car, I'll settle the score with you." The little security guard smiled bitterly, but he didn't expect Lin Yi to see through his thoughts. While he was annoyed, he could only accept his fate. Little did he know that Lin Yi didn't want to lower himself to his level. Otherwise, he would have been lying on the ground a long time ago. Jiang Wen brought Lin Yi to a private room on the 4th floor. The 4th floor was where the best private rooms were, and above that was the entertainment center. The room was very spacious, and one could see the night view of the fountain not far from the hotel through the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was a very good location, and normal people wouldn't be able to get a room like this. Brother Lin, please have a seat. Don't stand on ceremony. Jiang Wen, on the other hand, seemed to have gotten used to the night view. He put his phone on the table and sat down. It's been a while since I've been to this room. It's been 3 years, right? Yeah, and bro, back in the day, we Songshan young masters were so powerful. Even those little security guards are bullying us now. Taizao said angrily. Haha, it's because Brother Lin's clothes are a little too simple, and the car's a little special. That's why that security guard looks down on you, Jiang Wen said with a smile, intentionally mocking Lin Yi. Lin Yi, naturally, understood that Jiang Wen was mocking him for being poor and not worthy of being with Meng Yao. But he didn't mind. The miss had sent him here today, and he wanted to teach these two a lesson for Yushu. Everything else was secondary. Plus, Lin Yi had even disguised himself as a beggar when he was on missions before. Why would he care about these looks? As a result, Lin Yi didn't mind the guard's words at all. That's true. Taizao smiled, understanding what Jiang Wen was getting at. Lil bro Lin, you need to get Yao Yao to buy you some good clothes, or you'll lose face if you go out like this. I did, but I'm not wearing it. Lenny said with a smile, naturally understanding what the two were trying to say. Mengyao did buy clothes for Lenny, but Lenny always wore his school uniform when he went to school. Taizao, brother Lin, this is called keeping a low profile. What's the saying? Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Zhang Wen explained with a smile. Yeah, pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Keeping a low profile. Taizao nodded. These two naturally were being sarcastic. As far as they were concerned, Lenny wouldn't be able to pretend to be a pig even if he wanted to. Lenny didn't explain. Laugh all you want, I'll make you cry later. Zhang Wen joked with Lenny a couple of times, feeling a bit better. But he didn't dare make it too obvious, afraid that Lenny would get angry and leave. He didn't wait for Lenny to speak, and raised his hand to call for the waiter to bring out the dishes. The dishes had been ordered beforehand, and Zhang Wen had called the hotel to prepare them before he left Mingyao's villa. So, after Zhang Wen gave the order to the waiters, the delicacies were placed on the table one after another. Zhang Wen secretly pressed the record button on his phone. He'd put his phone on the table intentionally, aiming the camera at Lin Yi to record the guy's embarrassing face. As far as Zhang Wen was concerned, Lin Yi probably hadn't eaten all these delicacies before. If he really ate like this, he'd record it and use it as a joke. Of course, this wasn't the main point. The show he'd arranged was the main point. Brother Lin, don't be so courteous. There's only 3 of us, we don't have that many rules. Let's eat. Zhang Wen raised his wine glass. Come, let me toast you. You saved my life last time, so I won't say any more thank yous words. It's nothing, and it's Yao Yao's orders too. Lin Yi raised the glass in his hand, and took a sip before putting it down and starting to eat. Chapter 355. Chapter 355. Finding an opportunity. Wait a bit. Let's eat first. I'm hungry. Lin Yi waved his hand dismissively. Alright then. Let's eat first then. Zhang Wen thought that Lin Yi was probably really starved. School had just ended, and he hadn't had dinner yet. It wouldn't be too late to let him eat first. But Lin Yi's leisurely eating speed was driving Zhang Wen crazy. He'd wanted to record Lin Yi wolfing down his food and make it a laughingstock. But Lin Yi was eating very elegantly. He ate quite a lot, but it was a very elegant feeling. Zhang Wen had no choice but to give up on recording. Wasn't this just a waste of memory? What if he couldn't record Lin Yi when he was playing with a prostitute later? Lin Yi only took a sip of the red wine. After he was done with his meal, he wiped his mouth. Not bad. The chefs at Starlight Hotel are really good. The food is really good. Of course. This place wouldn't have become our base otherwise, Taizao said proudly. Back in the day, us young masters of Songshan used to come here all the time. Brother Lin, we're full now. Should we start some activity? Zhang Wen, on the other hand, was all smiles as he looked at Lin Yi. He thought that if the kid didn't leave after eating and drinking, he'd be treating him to a meal for nothing. He didn't even get a single word out of the kid. Oh, that's fine. But wait, I need to go to the washroom. Lin Yi turned around to leave the room. His phone was vibrating. It was probably Mengyao or Yushu calling. Lin Yi didn't want to answer it in front of Zhang Wen and Taizao. Isn't there a washroom in this room? Taizao pointed at a small door in the room. I'm not used to sitting toilets. Lin Yi smiled. I ate too much. My stomach's a little uncomfortable. Haha, alright then. Hurry up and come back soon. Taizao smiled understandingly at Lin Yi's words. Some people were used to squatting and didn't like sitting down. It was normal. Lin Yi went to the washroom, and Zhang Wen and Taizao decided to discuss their next step. They wanted Lin Yi to find a prostitute and record the whole process. It didn't matter if he was Mingyao's boyfriend or not. As long as they gave the video to Pengzhan, he'd be done for. Lin Yi walked quickly to the washroom and picked up the phone. It was indeed Yushu. Shield bro, I'm asking you on behalf of Yao Yao. Yushu said seriously. Have you found Miss yet? Hee, not yet. Lin Yi smiled. I just finished eating. Sister Yao Yao said you're not allowed to look for her. If you do, don't come back. Meng Yao's voice came from the other side, just as Yushu finished. Shu, what are you talking about? I didn't say that. Hee, shield bro, did you teach those two a lesson? Yushu giggled. I didn't find a chance. Let's wait and see. Lenny couldn't just beat them up like that, could he? He needed a reason, and Lenny didn't want Yushu's words to cause trouble for them. These two were clearly a level higher than Pinliang and Zhou. It was best to let them suffer in silence. Okay, then you have to teach them a lesson, Yushu said. I'm hanging up now, you have to hurry. Lenny hung up and walked out of the washroom, thinking of a plan as he walked. Suddenly, he heard a familiar name coming from a private room. Sihua bro, what do you think of these two girls? They're the best in Starlight, the best in this place. I spent a lot of money to get them here. A flattering voice came from the private room. Although the voice was very humble, it was very loud, and it was obviously a little unscrupulous. Okay, not bad. A man's laughter came from the room. It was Sihua's voice that Lenny saw the other day. Lenny stopped in his footsteps. Sihua was eating here too? What a coincidence. He didn't know how Sihua felt after killing 2 golden class masters. But he still had the mood to come here and play with the best. Twins? What are your names? Sihua was evidently interested as he asked with a perverted voice. I'm Xue and she's Hua. One of the twins said softly, the bolder one. Okay, Xue, nice name. Sihua laughed loudly. Come, pour me a glass of wine. A smile formed on Lin Yi's lips as he made up his mind. He quickly walked back to his room. Zhang Wen and Tai Zhao had discussed this before. They had to find a girl for Lin Yi no matter what. Even if he didn't want one, they had to persuade him to find one. Otherwise, they'd come for nothing. So they decided that if Lin Yi didn't want one, they'd get him drunk and force him to find one. No matter what, he wouldn't be able to escape tonight. Lin Yi pushed the door open and entered the room. Zhang Wen waved at Lin Yi passionately. Bro Lin, come quick. I've already told the manager to find us some hot girls. Sure. Lin Yi pretended to be overjoyed and smiled. I'm full now, I can play with some girls. Good, forthright. Zhang Wen was overjoyed as well. He was worried that Lin Yi wouldn't look for one. But now that he'd asked for one, it was exactly what he wanted. The girls in this hotel are all pretty good. I'll make sure you enjoy yourself. Yeah, I've heard about that a long time ago. But I'm a person with high taste. I don't like normal girls. Lin Yi said with a shake of his head. You know that the girls I usually interact with are all school beauties. I know that. Don't worry, I'll definitely find you the best. Zhang Wen thought to himself. He wasn't afraid of Lin Yi choosing. He was afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't look for one. As long as Lin Yi had the intention, he'd get the manager to find one for him. That's good. Lin Yi chuckled and sat down, looking very expectant. Zhang Wen gave Tai Zhao a look, and he left the room. Not long after, a man in his 30s came in with 5 pretty girls behind him. Mr. Yang, I didn't think that you'd come personally. It's my honor. Zhang Wen smiled. Mr. Yang was the general manager of the hotel, directly reporting to the big boss. He had the final say in everything. Other people might not know who Zhang Wen and Tai Zhao were, but he did. A few years ago, they were famous people in Songshan. Even the big boss of the hotel had to give them face, let alone a manager like him. Chapter 356. Having a target master and see if these are to your liking, Mr. Yang said with a smile as he showed the girls behind him. Haha, Brother Lin is the guest today. Brother Lin, see if you like them first. Zhang Wen said with a nod to Lin Yi. Oh, can I pick 2? Lin Yi asked after one look. Of course. Tai Zhao nodded. He'd been afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't pick. But now he could even pick all of them, let alone 2. The more people there were, the messier it'd be. It'd be more convincing if he showed them to Chu Pingzhan. That's great. Lin Yi smiled. But to be honest, none of them are to my liking. Zhang Wen and Tai Zhao frowned at Lin Yi's words. Wasn't Lin Yi being a little too picky? These 5 girls weren't top-tier beauties, but they'd still be top-tier beauties after putting on makeup. How could Lin Yi not be interested in any of them? Was his standards really too high? Or was he doing this on purpose? But no matter what, Zhang Wen had no choice but to ask Mr. Yang to switch. Zhang Wen pretended to be angry. Mr. Yang, what's wrong with you? Is it because I haven't been here for a few years that you're not giving me face anymore? Are you trying to fool us with these kinds of girls? I wouldn't dare. Mr. Young sweated. I'll go switch them right now. These 5 girls really weren't the best of the best in the Starlight Hotel. Taizao had told him to find some good ones to entertain the guests. And so Mr. Yang thought that these 5 were more than enough. He didn't think too much about it. Who would have thought that this customer was a picky one? And now he'd pissed off Masterin as well. It wasn't worth it. And he quickly left the room with the 5 girls. Jiang Wen could tell from Mr. Yang's expression that these 5 weren't the best of the best. He couldn't help but look at Taizao puzzled. Why was this guy so unreliable? Since Lenny hung out with Meng Yao and Yushu all the time, his standards must be higher than the average person's. Would he even be interested in a normal girl? I'm so sorry, Brother Lin. This Mr. Yang is really bad at handling things. Jiang Wen couldn't blame Taizao, so he pushed the blame onto Mr. Yang. Nothing. Let's wait and see. Lenny shook his head slightly, feeling amused. Even if you brought a heaven immortal, I would still look down on you. After a while, the door of the private room was pushed open again. This time, Director Yang brought 3 girls who were obviously a grade higher than the previous 5 into the private room. Master and Master Lin, how did it go? Mr. Yang was full of confidence. He'd brought all of the hotel's top hostesses with him. If he still couldn't pick them out, then he'd have to say that Master Lin had bad taste. Oh, let me see. Lenny raised his head calmly, sizing up the 3 girls Mr. Yang had brought. He had to admit that these girls were all top quality. Lenny sighed. Why did he have to go into this line of work? But Lenny wasn't a savior. He didn't want to care about things like this. Everyone had their own difficulties, and he couldn't possibly understand them one by one. He pretended to look at the 3 girls carefully, thinking that Lin-Yi would definitely keep 1 or 2, or even 3 of them when Lin-Yi spoke up. Man, it still won't do. Mr. Yang, are you hiding something? Mr. Yang paused, a little unhappy. Hiding something? What, Master Lin doesn't like any of them? At this point, even Jiang Wen and Taizao thought that Lin-Yi was being too picky. Was this guy just going through the motions to brush them off? Maybe he didn't even want to look? Jiang Wen had his suspicions, but he couldn't say it already. What if Lin-Yi was really that picky? Brother Lin, don't tell me that you don't like any of them? Taizao's words were a little forceful. After all, even he was a little moved by these 3 girls. But Lin-Yi didn't like any of them? Ahem. Alright, I'll get straight to the point then. Mr. Yang, I heard that Starlight has 2 top hostesses, a pair of twins? Lin-Yi pretended to be unhappy. I've heard so much about them. It's not just a rumor, is it? Lin-Yi's words surprised Mr. Yang, as well as Jiang Wen and Taizao. What surprised Mr. Yang was that Lin-Yi wasn't being picky at all, but that he already had a target in mind. Perhaps it was because he wanted to save face, but he didn't say it out loud. Instead, he was hinting at Mr. Yang through his dissatisfaction, asking him to change to someone better. Jiang Wen and Taizao, on the other hand, hadn't been here for years, and they didn't know who the top hostesses were anymore. So when they heard Lin-Yi say these 2 names, they thought to themselves that this kid was an expert. What made Jiang Wen and Taizao the happiest was that Lin-Yi wasn't messing with them on purpose. He already had a target in mind, and perhaps he was too embarrassed to say it out loud before. But now that Taizao had forced him to say it. But that wasn't a problem. As long as Lin-Yi said the name, everything would be fine. Mr. Yang, that Xue and Hua, aren't they the top hostesses here? Jiang Wen looked at Mr. Yang, his tone neutral. He was a little annoyed. Even if he hadn't been here for years, he was still one of the 4 young masters of Songshan. He was a famous young master in Songshan. This Mr. Yang wasn't giving him face at all. He'd already asked him to change the hostesses, and he was still hiding something. Wasn't he looking down on him? Mr. Yang's heart tightened at Jiang Wen's anger. He knew that Jiang Wen had misunderstood. He quickly explained, Master, and please don't be angry. Xue and Hua are the top hostesses here. But they've already been picked up by other customers for a large sum of money. Large sum of money? Tell them to come over. I'll pay them even more. It's just money, isn't it? I've got plenty of it. Jiang Wen panicked. Linny finally had a target, and now they'd been picked by someone else? How could he let that happen? That's against the rules, isn't it? Mr. Yang sighed. The current Songshan wasn't the fourth young master's world anymore. Your families all have their own backgrounds. But there's someone here who's no weaker than you all. He's the one who picked Xue and Hua Hua tonight. Can I go get them back? And bro, let's just forget about it. Since Mr. Yang's in such a difficult position, let's talk about it another day? Linny said, pretending to be a nice guy. Chapter 357. Chapter 357. The fox exploiting the tiger's might. Jiang Wen knew that tonight was a good opportunity for him to take down Lin Yi. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and he didn't know when he'd get it after today. He couldn't wait. Since Lin Yi had a target in mind, he'd have to make sure he got what he wanted. Brother Lin, don't worry, leave this to me. I have some face here in Songshan. Jiang Wen said faintly as he looked at Mr. Yang. Mr. Yang, are you not going to give me face anymore? Masterin, it's not that I don't want to. It's just that I can't call them back from their rooms. Mr. Yang smiled bitterly. They're not easy to mess with. Oh, so you're saying that we're easy to mess with? Tai Zhao raged, really wanting to slap this guy in the face. He and Bro were Songshan's 4 young masters. Mr. Yang smiled bitterly. He couldn't afford to piss off a single one of them. And bro, it looks like your face isn't that useful anymore. Why don't we just let it go? I don't want things to get out of hand. Linny said weakly as he looked at Jiang Wen. It's fine. Jiang Wen stood up from Lin Yi's words. You don't have to do that. Just tell me which room they're in. I'll go find them myself. In Songshan, other than my bro Chen, there's no one who dares fight me for a woman. They're in room 418. Mr. Yang said. Masterin, I'll be leaving first then. Please don't tell anyone that I said that. Go. Jiang Wen waved his hand impatiently, cursing the coward in his mind. He turned to Tai Zhao. Let's go, we'll fight in bro for a woman. All right. Tai Zhao stood up as well, itching to go. In the past few years, they had done plenty of such tyrannical things, so they didn't care at all, and weren't afraid of getting into trouble. Most people would take the initiative to keep the peace, after hearing the name of the 4 young masters of Mount Songshan. No one would argue with them and cause trouble. Brother Lin, are you coming? Jiang Wen looked at Lin Yi, who was sitting on the chair. You're a man, you need to be hot-blooded. Even if you don't do anything, you should at least watch from the side. Then, I'll go take a look. Lin Yi stood up excitedly. Actually, I'm looking forward to such a hot-blooded scene. It's just that I didn't dare to before. No problem, just watch. Tai Zhao laughed. Watch how the 4 young masters of Songshan step on people. Tai Zhao put on a righteous face as well. That was the only way to get Lin Yi to let his guard down. And they'd be able to take pictures of him later. Alright, then I'll also borrow the tiger's might for once. Lin Yi stood up and took 2 steps forward. Then, he turned around and picked up a bottle of red wine from the table. I need to bring a weapon to protect myself. These things are all trash if you follow us. Tai Zhao curled his lips. The name of the 4 young masters of Songshan was much more useful than a bottle of wine. Lin Yi walked in front like a tiger, opening up a path. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao, on the other hand, were chuckling inwardly at the guy's thought. He'd gone crazy thinking about the twins. Otherwise he wouldn't be this excited. He stopped in front of room 418. Waiting for Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao to walk over before kicking the door open. His voice grew shrill with excitement. People inside, listen up. If you know what's good for you, send Xue and Hua Hua out to our young master right now. Otherwise you'll be in for it. With that, he threw the bottle of wine in with a bang, hitting Xihua's face and causing his nose to bleed. In actuality, Lin Yi had made his voice sharper on purpose. He didn't want Xihua to recognize his voice. After throwing the bottle, Lin Yi quickly hid behind Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao, on the other hand, didn't mind Lin Yi's actions at all. They thought that he was just trying to act cool, but was also a coward, using their power to intimidate others. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao walked into the room, and with Lin Yi leading the way, Jiang Wen pointed at the twins. I'm taking these two girls with me tonight. You guys don't mind, do you? Jiang Wen used to say this a couple of years ago, and it was easy for him to say it now. He looked at Xue and Hua Hua, and found them to be as pretty and sweet as the three girls Mr. Yang had brought. No wonder Lin Yi wanted them so much. Even Jiang Wen himself was moved. If it weren't for the fact that he had to take pictures of Lin Yi, he would have taken them home himself. Sihua was stunned by the bottle of wine that Lin Yi had thrown at him. Who dared hit him in Songshan? Did they have a death wish? The voice sounded familiar, but Sihua didn't have time to think about it. He raised his head to look at the door and saw Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao walking in. Sihua thought that they were the ones who threw the bottle. He was furious. How could there be people who didn't know what was good for them? Beat them to death. Beat them to death. Sihua held his bleeding nose as he pointed at Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. Beat them until they don't even recognize each other. The two golden class masters beside him had been killed by Lin Yi, but Sihua still had other fighters around him. They weren't golden class yet, but they were more than enough to beat up two young masters who didn't know any kung fu. The two bodyguards beside Sihua heard the order, pouncing over like hungry wolves, each of them grabbing one of the bodyguards and starting the fight without a word. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao were stupefied. They were used to stepping on people, never thinking about the consequences. The moment they said their names, the only thing the other party would think of was to let things go. But today, the people in the room didn't even ask before starting the fight. Were they idiots? Didn't they know the rules? Aren't you afraid of getting into trouble and getting yourself into trouble? They were only thinking about themselves. They didn't think that this was all caused by Lin Yi. If it weren't for Lin Yi smashing a bottle of wine on Sihua's face, he wouldn't have ordered his bodyguards to start the fight. Usually, Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao would bring a strong follower with them when they came out. For example, the feminine man from the other day was Tai Zhao's fighter, and he had no problem fighting 1 against 3. But today, he was treating Lin Yi to a meal, and so Jiang Wen didn't bring any irrelevant people. Only when the fight was about to start did he realize that there was no one on his side who could fight. Chapter 358. Wasn't this a little too much? Tai Zhao didn't even get a chance to say anything before another bodyguard punched him to the ground. Cries and screams filled the room. People who didn't know what was going on would think that pigs were being slaughtered inside the room. Lin Yi curled his lips. Trying to mess with me? You two can enjoy the feeling of being screwed over yourself. Bye. He used his phone to record the two's miserable state for a while before leaving room 418 silently. He took the elevator downstairs and was out of the hotel in no time at all. Lin Yi didn't drink much at all, just 2 sips of red wine. Lin Yi wouldn't get drunk even if he drank a lot, so he got in the car and drove back to the villa. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao might be the Songshan young masters, but they'd probably have to swallow their pride if they knew that it was Sihua who'd beaten them up. They wouldn't be able to get back at him. Yushu called him again on the way home, and Lin Yi picked it up with a smile. What's up? Is there something else? Yao Yao asked me to check if you did anything bad again. Yushu giggled. Haha, nothing, I'm going back soon. Lin Yi smiled. The mist was cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. She did care about him a lot. Shoo, don't say stuff like that. I'm just worried that he'll get filmed and sent to me. Meng Yao humphed, not admitting what she was thinking. Hee, Yao Yao's angry now. Yushu stuck her tongue out. Shield bro, did you do anything to them? Yep, I'll tell you guys when I get back. Lin Yi found it hilarious the more he thought about Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. Those two were really unlucky. He didn't know who was stronger, Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao's power. On the 4th floor of the Bright Star Hotel, in room 418, there was a one-sided brawl going on. 2 bodyguards were kicking and punching Tai Zhao and Jiang Wen, who'd already turned into pig heads. You dare hit me? Do you know who I am? Jiang Wen yelled at the top of his lungs. He took the opportunity when the bodyguard was switching hands. I don't care who you are. Since you dare to come looking for trouble today, don't even think of leaving here standing. Jianong replied with a cold smile. as he carefully wiped the blood off Zihua's face. Zihua bro, are you alright? Do you want to go to the hospital? I'm fine, Zihua said with a wave of his hands. A small injury like this wasn't enough to affect him at all. It was just a little scary, and he didn't feel like he was losing face at all. He was a big shot in the underworld, and now his nose was bleeding from a slap? It was quite embarrassing. I'm Zhang Wen. Songshan young master Zhang Wen. How dare you hit me? Zhang Wen continued yelling while he still had the chance to speak. He was afraid that the bodyguard would land another punch on his mouth and turn him into a mute. Wait. Zihua paused after hearing Zhang Wen's words. He quickly waved his hand, signaling the bodyguards to stop fighting. Chapter 359. Chapter 359. Getting beaten up for nothing. What Linny didn't know was that Zhang Wen and Zihua actually knew each other, and had even arranged to meet up at night. According to Linny, even if Zhang Wen and Taizao weren't killed, they'd be crippled by Zihua's men. Zihua, on the other hand, wasn't a man who wouldn't react when his nose was bleeding. Masterin, I can only apologize for what happened earlier. I hope you don't mind, but I've become like this as well, Zihua said with a shrug as he pointed at his face. The power behind Zihua wasn't weak, but Zhang Wen's house wasn't weak either. Add Taizao's house to the mix, there was even less of a need for Zihua to start a feud. The two of them didn't even have a grudge against each other, and were even working together. It was all that bastard Lin Yi's fault. It's fine. Zhang Wen waved his hand. He knew that he couldn't blame Zihua for what happened today. The only person to blame was Lin Yi. That bastard was simply too evil. Taizao, on the other hand, was a little indignant. Lin Yi was the one who started this, but he couldn't just beat someone up like that, could he? He'd never heard of the name Zihua after all. Who the hell knew who he was? But seeing that Zhang Wen was letting it go, he didn't have anything else to say. He could only sit on the side angrily. The good thing was that the beating wasn't too heavy, just that his face looked like a pig's head. Shue hua hua, go accompany young Master Su to calm his anger. Zihua could see through Taizao's resentment. He waved at the twins, gesturing for them to keep Taizao company. Taizao's face was swollen, but Shue and Hua Hua weren't stupids. They knew that this person was someone with a high social status, someone who was on the same level as Zihua. Plus, he was a pig now, but he'd been a handsome guy when he first came in. It wouldn't be a loss to keep him company. Master Su. Taizao had been holding a grudge at first, but now that Zihua had given him these two headliners, that grudge vanished without a trace. He wasn't the kind of person who was shrewd. The purpose of coming to the private room this time was to snatch the woman. Now that he had achieved his goal, he had his face. Naturally, Taizao didn't say anything else about Zihua's thoughtfulness and respect. Happily, he brought the two girls into the lounge. Zihua smiled faintly. Naturally, he knew what Taizao was thinking, but he didn't care about him at all. The only person he cared about was Zhang Wen, the person who could bring him benefits. Young Masterin, forgive me for being blunt, but why are you treating Lin Yi to a meal? Are you friends with him? Zihua had to figure out the relationship between Zhang Wen and Lin Yi first. He knew that Zhang Wen was pissed off after Lin Yi set him up, but that was just on the surface. Who knew if there was a deeper connection between the two? If Zhang Wen and Lin Yi were really friends, then this cooperation wouldn't be able to go on. Friends? Zhang Wen smiled coldly. More like love rivals. Oh. Zihua narrowed his eyes. He'd gotten a useful piece of information. I was wondering why he'd set you up. I've underestimated the kid's intellect. It seems like he knew that I had bad intentions towards him all along, so he set me up after eating me. Zhang Wen said angrily. Zihua bro, you and Lin Yi is Ming Yao's bodyguard. We wanted to kidnap Ming Yao to achieve our goals, but Lin Yi ruined our plan. Zihua said nonchalantly. Naturally, he wouldn't reveal something as shameful as losing two golden class masters. And now that the plan had failed, Gubang had lost the ability to deal with Pengzhan. Zihua couldn't be bothered with Ming Yao, but Lin Yi, on the other hand, was something he couldn't let go of. Oh, is Lin Yi really Meng Yao's bodyguard? Jiang Wen paused. He'd had his suspicions before. But if Lin Yi really was Meng Yao's bodyguard, then he still had a chance. I thought that he had some sort of relationship with Meng Yao before, but I realized that he was closer to that Yushu. Sihua was talking about the theme park incident. Lin Yi risked his life to jump into the sea with Yushu, and that made Sihua suspicious. Yushu? Ha, that's great. Jiang Wen lost his composure a little after hearing Sihua's words. But he couldn't be blamed for that. He'd been planning to cause trouble for Lin Yi, because he'd heard that Lin Yi was Meng Yao's boyfriend. Now that he was sure that Lin Yi wasn't, Jiang Wen felt quite satisfied. What's wrong, Masterin? The girl you're in love with isn't Meng Yao, is it? Sihua seemed to have noticed something. I'm sorry, Sihua bro, but Yao Yao and I are childhood friends, we grew up together. Jiang Wen nodded. I saw Lin Yi with Meng Yao when I came back to China, so I brought him out to see what's going on. That kid isn't simple. Even if he's just a bodyguard, you still have to be careful of him. Sihua reminded. He didn't mind using this opportunity to drive a wedge between Jiang Wen and Lin Yi into the fray. I will. Jiang Wen nodded. Sihua bro, you guys want to go after Meng Yao? It's all in the past, and that plan has been terminated. Don't worry. Sihua smiled. Even if it wasn't terminated, I wouldn't do anything for Master An's sake. Thank you, Sihua bro. Jiang Wen was quite satisfied with Sihua's attitude. The two had some conflict at first, but that was all because of Lin Yi. Now that things were out in the open, Jiang Wen still wanted to work with Sihua. Masterin, we don't get to know each other without a fight. We're both straightforward people, so just say what you want. Sihua smiled as he poured Jiang Wen a glass of red wine. Because of the misunderstanding, the two skipped the pleasantries and probing each other's secrets, and went straight to the point. Jiang Wen glanced at the private room. Taizao was in there, and then at Sihua's bodyguards. He wanted to say something, but he didn't. Sihua smiled, naturally understanding what Jiang Wen meant. He waved his hand at his bodyguards. You guys leave first. Yes. The bodyguards didn't say anything and left the private room. After closing the door tightly, they stood guard at the door of the private room. Chapter 360. Kneeling on the CPU. Hello, Mr. Su, your name's pretty cute. Jiang Wen sweated a little at the name. It was a pretty cool name. Haha. Jianong smiled. I'm from the same family as that Master Su inside. Don't worry, Masterin, this room's soundproof. We can't hear anything from inside, right? Jiang Wen nodded. Sihua bro, I'm sure you know what kind of business my family does. My big brother used to be in charge here in Songshan, and I don't care what he does, but I've heard a lot about you, Sihua bro. You're the boss of Songshan's underground forces. That's why I'm here to pay you a visit. No matter what, Jiang Wen's words made Sihua feel good. Naturally, Sihua knew what kind of business Jiang Wen's family was in, after all, selling human organs. Jiang Wen's big brother, Njienda, hadn't visited Sihua when he was here. He didn't think much of Sihua because he had a golden class mid-phase as his underling. But Njienda's business back then was the kind where money was exchanged for goods. It was illegal, but it didn't have anything to do with the underground forces. Sihua didn't want to get into an enemy's business because of that. After all, a golden class mid-phase master wasn't to be underestimated. Sihua had a stronger master backing him up, but there was no need for the two to fight to the death. Even if he took care of Njienda, Sihua wouldn't be able to dip his fingers into his business, since he'd never been in the business before. He didn't have any customers, and he didn't have any channels to sell his organs. But even so, Sihua was still a little displeased. After all, doing illegal business in Songshan without paying a visit to him was a bit shameful. Even if he didn't give any money, shouldn't he at least put on a feast? And so, Sihua was quite pleased that Jiang Wen had taken the initiative to pay a visit. Haha, Master Wen, I'm glad that you're thinking like that. Don't worry, there's no one I can't take care of in Songshan. If you need anything in the future, just say the word. Sihua said boldly. However, he was obviously bragging. At the very least, he didn't manage to deal with Lin Yi. Not only that, but he also lost 2 golden class masters. This was a huge loss. No. Sihua bro. I'm not here to visit you this time. I'm here to talk about cooperation. Jiang Wen waved his hand with a smile. Cooperate? Sihua paused. What was there to cooperate with this guy? Sihua bro. You know that fewer and fewer people are willing to sell their kidneys these days. People aren't stupid anymore. My brother used to lie to people, saying that losing a kidney wouldn't affect them at all. But the truth is, people who have their kidneys removed will have their bodies deteriorate. No one is falling for that anymore. Jiang Wen said helplessly. That's why I'm preparing to make a move on the homeless and beggars. Of course I have to go through you, Sihua bro. Sihua nodded. The new CPU doesn't have pins anymore, so it's useless for punishment. It's fine, Yao Yao. We can turn on the computer and remove the fan, and make Shield Bro kneel on it. Yushu waved her fist. Are you trying to burn him to death? Meng Yao was speechless. The CPU would burn to death without a fan. Chapter 362. Voss has a way, of course. Even if this thing could be mass-produced, Linny didn't want to do it. He didn't want to leak the recipe either. Rare things were more valuable. People would only crazily chase after it when it was unique. Plus, once this thing was released, it would definitely attract the attention of various forces. Linny didn't want to stand in the limelight just yet. He only took out a few pills. He didn't want to say that he made it himself. He just wanted to release some from time to time. This way, he could keep a low profile. Originally, Linny wanted to make a few pills and give them to the celebrities when Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company opened. He wanted to make Miracle Dr. Guan's name known. But it wasn't a bad idea to give one to Dr. Kong as a birthday gift. If he believed it, then his words would be more convincing. If he didn't believe it, then he could only pretend that he wasn't fated to enjoy such a good thing. Linny originally wanted to wait for Kong Xiaobo's second grandpa's birthday celebration to make the pill. But because of this phone call, Linny had to prepare in advance. Luckily, he still had time. On Saturday afternoon, Kong Xiaobo called. Linny drove to Ningxia Road Station to pick up Kong Xiaobo. Tang Yun's father, Tang Jucheng, was going to have surgery on Monday. Tang Yun had to stay in the hospital with her mother, so she was at the hospital. Linny wanted to pick up Tang Yun after picking up Kong Xiaobo. As for Xiaofan, Kong Xiaobo had already discussed it with his parents. Linny was his good brother, Tang Yun was Lin Yi's girlfriend, and Xiaofan was Tang Yun's best friend. Kong Xiaobo's parents didn't suspect anything. Instead, they thought that it was a good sign that Kong Xiaobo could bring a classmate. After all, Kong Xiaobo wasn't willing to go to his second grandpa's house in the past. The people on the other side invited him warmly, but Xiaobo continued to ignore them. Kong Xiaobo's parents didn't know that Kong Mingming had been mocking Kong Xiaobo in private. He was only pretending to be normal. The car stopped at Ningxia Road Station. Kong Xiaobo opened the door and got in. Boss, let's go pick up Xiaofan first. She's at home. Linny nodded. Xiaofan lived in the slums, so Linny was familiar with the place. Man, Fan doesn't really want to go. She said she'd go, but now she's backing out. Xiaobo sighed after getting in the car. I tried to talk her out of it, and she agreed reluctantly. Who knows if she'll regret it later? That's normal. After all, going to see Kong Xiaoming is an eternal pain in her heart. Although she was mentally prepared for it, it's understandable that she would retreat when it comes to it. Linny said, after all, Kong Mingming hurt her. Although you want to completely forget Kong Mingming in this way, you have to consider Xiaofan's opinion. I understand too. That's why I'll always be by her side. Isn't that right, boss? Kong Xiaobo wanted Linny to comfort Xiaofan. Even if he couldn't cure Xiaofan's leg now, he hoped that Linny could give her confidence. After all, Xiaofan knew that Lin Yi knew medical skills. Xiaobo, you don't have to comfort me. The doctors in the hospital said that there's no hope. Xiaofan sighed. Chapter 363. Keep the good stuff for yourself. Lin Yi's answer was very standard. And he didn't tell Fin that he could definitely cure it, only saying that it was possible. But the more it was like that, the happier Fin was. If Lin Yi said that he could cure it, then Fin would have suspected that he was just comforting her. But Lin Yi's words increased her confidence. Lin Yi, can you really cure my leg? Fin was surprised and happy. Even Kong Xiaobo looked at Lin Yi with anticipation. Yes, but don't worry. Lin Yi smiled. That's not a problem. Lin Yi's house had a couple of nerve-stimulating drugs, concocted by old Lin in order to stimulate his body's potential. Lin Yi didn't need those drugs anymore after learning the art of dragon mastery, so he put them aside. Since Lin Yi couldn't use it himself, he didn't put much effort into researching the medicine that stimulated the body's potential. Even if he didn't go back to his house to get the medicine, he could just look it up or call Old Man Lin and ask for the formula. Yes. Fin nodded excitedly. She wanted to walk like a normal person even in her dreams. And now that Lin Yi had given her hope, she was in high spirits. Kong Xiaobo was very happy about Fin's change. He told her about the interesting things in school along the way, including how Lin Yi slapped Zhou Ruoming and kicked Zhong Pingliang. Yunyan is so lucky to find your boss. He's a good person and treats her well. Fin was happy that she found Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi was many times stronger than Kong Mingming. Isn't Xiaobo nice to you too? Lin Yi joked. Yeah, I'm boss's follower. Naturally, I've inherited boss's good traditions. Kong Xiaobo said confidently. Hehe. Xiaofan was amused. Inherited? He didn't give birth to you. Lin Yi picked up Tang Yun downstairs of the First People's Hospital. Tang Yun couldn't believe her eyes when she saw Xiaofan in the car. Fin. You're so pretty. Tang Yun rubbed her eyes. She was used to Fun's sickly look after so many years. She didn't think that Fun would still look so pretty after dressing up. Don't joke with me, Yunyan. How am I as beautiful as you? Although Xiaofan said that, she was still very happy in her heart. She couldn't compare to Tang Yun, who was already very beautiful without makeup, but compared to others, Xiaofan was still very superior. Women dress up for the man they like, that's true. Are you dressing up for Kong Xiaobo? Tang Yun joked. How dare you talk about me? Yin, why aren't you wearing your school uniform today? Your dress is so pretty, I've never seen you wear it before. Xiaofan pulled the topic back to Tang Yun. Tang Yun blushed. The dress she was wearing was bought by Lin Yi in the night market. She threw it in the closet because she was angry at Lin Yi. Now that her relationship with Lin Yi had improved, Tang Yun naturally found it and put it on. I gave it to her. Lin Yi smiled. Oh, Kong Xiaobo and Xiaofan nodded. How? She gave you 50 kuai. Tang Yun glared at Lin Yi. Since you said that you gave it to her, when are you going to return it to me? Haha. Lin Yi knew that Tang Yun was just joking. She wouldn't really ask for money. Right, boss, where's the present you prepared? Kong Xiaobo suddenly remembered something important. Here. Lin Yi took out an antique box from his pocket and passed it to Kong Xiaobo. Oh, what's this? It looks pretty high-end. Kong Xiaobo took the box and opened it. Boss, what's this black pill? Pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Lin Yi said a name he just came up with. Pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Kong Xiaobo repeated the name in shock. How come I've never heard of this before? A miracle doctor gave it to me. There's not a lot of it. Lin Yi said. After taking this pill, it can quickly expel the impurities and toxins in your body. It can extend your lifespan by 5 to 10 years. Damn. Such a good thing. It can't be, boss. Why would you give it to him? Kong Xiaobo's words made Tang Yun and Xiaofan speechless. Isn't he your second grandpa? Lin Yi was also speechless. That's true. But he hasn't been good to my family for the past few years. I might as well give it to Xiaofan. Kong Xiaobo wanted to say that he ate it, but he remembered Xiaofan and said it. Xiaofan was touched, but she still said, we're young. We don't need to eat this, right? Xiaofan is right. Lenny nodded. You're young. Even if you expel the toxins, you won't be able to expel much. It's especially effective for the elderly. So that's the case. Kong Xiaobo came to a realization. But it's a waste to give it to him. I might as well keep it for myself. I still have more when you need it. I'll keep it for you. Lenny smiled. You should give it to your second grandpa. Okay. Kong Xiaobo looked at the pill with a pained expression. Boss, you're not lying to me, right? Is this thing really that magical? It's not magical. It's based on science. The more toxins there are in the body, the more harmful it is to the body, especially for the elderly. If you don't pay attention when you're young, the toxins will accumulate in your body. Lenny explained. This thing is used to expel toxins from the body. It doesn't have any other functions. I see. Kong Xiaobo nodded. Okay, I'll give it to him since he's my second grandpa. Lenny drove to the provincial capital Donghai City. Donghai City was the provincial capital. It wasn't far from Songshan City, but it wasn't too close either. It was about a 3-hour drive. Lin Yi's shabby van couldn't drive very fast. If other cars drove for more than 3 hours, Lenny had to drive for more than 4 hours. It couldn't be helped. The van's speed couldn't be picked up, and it would easily fall apart. When the four of them arrived at the provincial capital, Donghai City, it was already 6 o'clock at night. Where are we going? Lenny had no sense of direction after getting off the highway. He knew nothing about the provincial capital, Donghai City. Chapter 364. Chapter 364. Master's old friend Kong Xiaobo's parents left in the morning. Kong Xiaobo said that he would come with his classmate's car. So his parents didn't wait for him. The call went through, and it was Kong Xiaobo's father who picked up. Xiaobo, you've arrived? Yeah, we just got off the highway. We're at the entrance of Donghai City. Kong Xiaobo said. Dad, where are you staying? I'll go look for you. I'm staying at Moon on the Sea Hotel, Sai. Kong Fu sighed, and didn't say anything for a long time. Dad, what's wrong? Kong Xiaobo paused. He felt like his father had something he couldn't say. Dad, where are you? I'm staying at the hotel your second grandpa arranged for me. Kong Fu said. But, Xiaobo, bring your classmates to another hotel, one that's more luxurious, don't neglect them. Ah. Kong Xiaobo froze. Dad, why are we staying outside? Didn't second grandpa book the whole hotel already? Sai, your second grandpa's family only reserved one room for us 3. Kong Fu said. They can't let you come back to stay by yourself, can they? Didn't you tell them that I'm bringing classmates? Kong Xiaobo panicked. I did, but your second uncle said that he was too busy and forgot. Kong Fu sighed. Whether he really forgot or not, I don't want to pursue it. But your second uncle's words are too infuriating. He said that your classmates can just find a hotel that's 30 to 20 yuan, and he'll pay for it. Look, what are you talking about? Moon on the Sea. Isn't that the hotel we went to last time? Didn't he book the whole resort? Why aren't there any empty rooms? Kong Xiaobo felt like he had lost face. Lin Yi, Tang Yun, and Xiaofan heard his father's conversation clearly. It made him angry. He said there will be VIPs. Forget it, Xiaobo, Dad will pay for you. Take your classmate to a more luxurious hotel. Kong Xiaobo's father was unwilling to argue on this topic. Don't neglect your classmate. Okay. Kong Xiaobo hung up the phone. He was so angry that he wanted to punch the car shed. But he finally retracted his hand. What a fucking bully. Why? Last time on his second grandpa's birthday, Kong Ming found a bunch of scoundrel friends, and they were all arranged to stay in the hotel. Many of them even had single rooms. His friends were fine, but his classmates had to stay in the hotel. What kind of logic was that? Forget it, Xiaobo. Lenny didn't think much of it. Then let's find a place ourselves. Boss, you don't know. Moon on the Sea is actually a resort. It's huge. How can there be no rooms? Kong Xiaobo said hatefully. I think they are looking down on us. Ah, Moon on the Sea. Lenny was slightly stunned. Is that the name? Why? Boss, you know this hotel too? Kong Ming looked at Lin Yi's stunned expression and asked curiously. Wait, let me make a call. Lenny hesitated for a moment before opening the door and getting out of the car. Although Lenny didn't want to use his previous connections, this was his last mission. After the mission, he wanted to live an ordinary life. Even if he had to be the Missy's follower for the rest of his life, he would accept it. This was because this kind of life without bullets and blood on the edge was too nostalgic. However, this time, because of Kong Xiaobo, the only brother he knew after integrating into his ordinary life, Lenny decided to make an exception for him. Lenny walked to a position a little further away from the van and dialed a number. After the phone call went through, it was quickly picked up on the other side. There was a pleasant female voice. "Eagle? How did you guess it was me?" Lenny was slightly stunned. "The location of the call is Donghai City." The voice was a little reproachful. "At present, except for you who has a special mission there is no one there." "Oh, as expected of the princess of the hacker world." Lenny smiled bitterly. "You can immediately know my location. Even if I don't know your location, I can still deduce that your phone number belongs to Songshan." Princess snorted lightly. "Locating your location is just a confirmation." "Fine, I admit I'm not good at computers." Lenny surrendered. "I have something to ask you. Is the Moon on the Sea Hotel in Donghai operated by our people? I think I saw it on a PDA before." "Where's your PDA?" Princess didn't answer but asked in return. "My old man took it to play games." Lenny sweated. "And he said this mission is not dangerous, so he doesn't need that thing." "Play games?" Princess was obviously speechless, but she didn't have the right to criticize old Lin. She could only pretend not to hear. "It's operated by our people." "Okay, give me the contact number of the person in charge," Lenny said. "His contact number is..." The princess gave him the contact number. "Okay, then I'll hang up first." Lenny noted down the contact number. "Don't you have anything else to say to me?" Princess asked in return. "What else?" Lenny was stunned. "Goodbye." Before Lenny could say anything else, the call was already hung up. Looking at the phone being hung up, Lenny smiled helplessly. This girl, what's wrong with her again? What Lenny didn't expect was that the owner of the Moon on the Sea Hotel in Donghai was not only one of his people, but also an old friend of his master. Although they hadn't met before, he had heard his master mention this person more than once. Lenny followed the contact number provided by Princess and dialed his number. "Hello, who are you looking for?" After the call was connected, a deep male voice came from the other side. "Uncle Tian?" Lenny asked tentatively. "You are." The man who was addressed as Uncle Tian was not sure who this person was. "I am Lenny." Lenny said his name. On the other side of the phone, Uncle Tian was stunned. He fell silent, as if digesting the name. After a while he asked tentatively, "Boss last disciple?" "That's me," Lenny said. "Please tell me your code name and password in the organization." Uncle Tian was obviously a cautious person. "Eagle password is..." Lenny said a code that was a combination of numbers and English. Chapter 365. Know all kinds of people, why would I need anything? Ling Yi's identity was special, but Uncle Tian was his elder, an old friend of his Shifu. Lenny wouldn't put on airs. "Uncle Tian, I need your help with something. Just say it." Uncle Tian was a little angry. "Your boss's disciple. Your words are the same as boss's. It's like this. I'm going to his second grandpa's birthday party with my classmate, but we don't have any rooms left. Do you have a place to stay?" Lenny asked. "That's it." Uncle Tian froze. It was too simple. "Are you going to Kong Lightsai's birthday party? His surname is Kong, Dr. Kong, but I'm not sure if it's this Kong like I." Lenny felt a chill when he heard Dr. Kang's name. As expected of a moneymaker. "That's him then." Uncle Tian smiled. "The entire resort has been booked by the Kong family, but I have a private villa that's not open to the public. You can just come over." "All right, I'll head over now. I'll call you when I get there." Lenny reminded him. "I'm a student now. I understand." Uncle Tian smiled. He wouldn't ask too much about Lin Yi's identity and what he was going to do. Lenny hung up and returned to the car. He said to Kong Xiaobo. It's done. Let's go. Where? Kong Xiaobo was surprised. To the Moon on the Sea resort. Linny said as he started the car. There's no room in the resort. Boss, you found someone? Kong Xiaobo was excited. We can stay at the Moon on the Sea resort too? Yeah. Linny nodded. The owner of the hotel is an elder of mine. Damn boss, you're amazing. Kong Xiaobo was full of admiration. His eyes were blazing with passion. He could finally hold his head high and let off some steam. Didn't her second uncle not allow her to stay here? And he stayed there. It doesn't matter if he doesn't have a room. I don't need to prepare a room for him. I have a room to stay in. Seeing how excited Kong Xiaobo was, Tang Yin looked at Linny curiously. This guy seemed to be able to solve any trouble easily. Did he know the owner of Donghai Ocean Moon Hotel? He knew quite a few people. Oh, well, don't be angry. Not only do we have a room to live in, but we also live in a villa. Linny smiled and comforted Kong Xiaobo. Villa? It can't be? Kong Xiaobo's eyes widened. I heard that Bright Moon over the sea has a total of 30 independent villas. Only 20 of them are open to the public, and 10 of them are for private use. That's right, boss, you know their boss. Naturally, you have a villa for private use. Although Linny didn't know where Bright Moon over the Sea Hotel was, he removed the GPS from Yushu's Beetle and installed it in his car before he left. It was a very famous hotel. Linny searched for it on the GPS and found a clear route to the hotel. Kong Xiaobo's second uncle, Kong Mingming's father, was standing at the entrance of Bright Moon over the Sea Resort with Kong Mingming, welcoming the guests. As for Kong Xiaobo's uncle, he was the CEO of Dr. Kang's medical group. His position was much more important than Kong Xiaobo's second uncle. He was currently in the hotel with a few important guests. Boss, that's my second uncle. The one beside him is Kong Mingming. Kong Xiaobo pointed at the person not far away and introduced him to Lin Yi. Xiaobo. Xiaofan faintly saw the figure of that person and closed her eyes in fear. This was the person that she had yearned for day and night. But at this moment, Xiaofan couldn't tell what kind of feelings she had for this person. Longing? Hate? Or fear? Kong Xiaobo grabbed Fun's hand tightly and comforted her. It's okay. It's okay, boss and I are here. No one will bully you. I'm still a little scared. Fun was a little nervous as she held onto Kong Xiaobo's hand tightly, not daring to let go. It's okay. If you're not ready, just lie down and close your eyes, it'll be fine. Kong Xiaobo comforted. Okay. Fun nodded and followed Kong Xiaobo's instructions, closing her eyes and lying down. Beep beep. Linny pressed the horn twice in front of the railing of the resort's driveway. Kong Mingming took a glance at Lin Yi's car and walked over impatiently. He complained to the security guard beside him. Can't your hotel's delivery car go through the back door? How many times have I told you? If you go through the front door, wouldn't it affect the guest's mood? Yes, second young Master Kong. The security guard apologized carefully, but when he looked at the license plate of Lin Yi's van, he was a little puzzled. I don't know this car. Is he a delivery car for the hotel? Delivery car, go through the back door. Kong Mingming ran over impatiently and shouted at Lin Yi while waving his hand. I'm not a delivery car. I'm here to stay. Lin Yi was a little speechless. This was the second time he was mistaken as a delivery car. Stay. This place has been booked by my family. There are no more rooms. You should go somewhere else. After Kong Mingming finished, he ignored Lin Yi and walked back. Why would a stranger waste his breath on him? Kong Mingming didn't have the time for that. Kong Xiaobo frowned, but he opened the car door and got out. Zhao Ming, it's me and my classmates. We're here to celebrate second grandpa's birthday. Oh! Kong Mingming saw Kong Xiaobo get out of the car, and he was obviously stunned. Didn't he ask his father to tell Kong Xiaobo not to come and stay outside? Kong Mingming didn't have a good impression of Kong Xiaobo. At his grandpa's birthday party, Kong Xiaobo didn't give him any face at all. He was cold to his big brother, which made Kong Ming feel very embarrassed. Which of his relatives did not fawn over him with the utmost respect? Why are you, Kong Xiaobo, so arrogant? Although you're also a member of the Kong family, you're not from my bloodline. What's there to be arrogant about? All right, Since you're so arrogant, then just you wait. Chapter 366. Tit for tat. Kong Ming Ming looked at his father, who was puzzled as well. Kong Xiaobo's father had informed Kong Xiaobo's father. So why didn't he inform Kong Xiaobo? Xiaobo, didn't your dad tell you? The resort is full, and we didn't arrange a room for you and your classmates. Kong Ming Ming feigned innocence. How about this? Why don't you and your classmates stay at the hotel next door? There's a small hotel there. It's only 30 to 40 kuai a night. I'll reimburse you tomorrow. Oh, Xiaoming, you don't have to worry about that. We've already booked a room here. Kong Xiaobo said faintly. We don't need you to arrange it. What? Kong Ming Ming blinked. You booked a room here? Impossible. I've booked all the rooms that are open to the public. Who are you trying to fool? Why would I lie to you? Kong Xiaobo shrugged, feeling good watching Kong Ming Ming go crazy. Xiaobo, I know you don't want to lose face in front of your classmates, and I understand how you feel. Kong Ming Ming's words were sincere, but he purposely raised his voice so that Lin Yi and the others could hear him. But you have to know that most of the guests for my grandpa's birthday are dignitaries. They can't even fit in the rooms, so why would there be rooms for your classmates? Plus, you're not grandpa's blood-related grandson, so there's no way they'll take care of you when arranging rooms. That's none of your concern. Kong Xiaobo wasn't angry at all. You've booked the rooms that are open to the public, but don't you have rooms that aren't open to the public as well? We've booked rooms that aren't open to the public. After that, Kong Xiaobo stopped talking to Kong Ming Ming. He opened the railing in front of the car and got in. Xiaoming was pissed off. Perhaps it was because Xiaobo knew the staff here. Or maybe he'd arranged a staff rest room for them. Still, he wasn't satisfied with letting him in just like that. Forget it, Illuminate. Kong Ming Ming's father waved his hand. Although he also looked down on his nephew's family, as an elder, he couldn't do too much. What the hell is this? Do you think you're some big shot now? Kong Ming Ming watched as Lin Yi's old car drove into the resort. He couldn't help but curse. Isn't it embarrassing to drive a lousy car? Alright, Illuminate. Your grandfather still cares about his face. Don't be too rude in front of outsiders. Anyway, he's a relative who doesn't interact with you all year round. If he wants to show off, then let him. He won't get any practical benefits anyway. Kong Ming Ming's father, Kong Suepu, shook his head and smiled as he welcomed an Audi that was about to drive into the resort. CEO Wang, you're here too. After Lin Yi entered the resort, he contacted Uncle Tian. Because of Lin Yi's repeated refusal and instructions, Uncle Tian didn't come out to welcome him personally. Instead, he sent a confidant to welcome Lin Yi. However, even the confidant didn't know Lin Yi's true identity. Lin Yi wanted to keep a low profile. If he was so close to the resort's boss in a high-profile manner, it was inevitable that he would be noticed by the Kong family. This time, Lin Yi accompanied Kong Xiaobo as a bystander. His main goal was to let Xiaofan clearly see the ugly faces of Kong Ming Ming and the others and completely erase him from her memory. If Lin Yi exposed the fact that he was close to Uncle Tian, then Kong Ming Ming might change his attitude and purposely get close to him to flatter him. That way, Xiaofan wouldn't be able to see his true colors. Young Master Lin, hello. CEO Tian asked me to come over. A man in his 30s walked quickly to Lin Yi's car. He didn't look down on Lin Yi's old car at all. His eyes maintained a respectful expression, without a trace of suspicion. I'm Li Yixuan. Young Master Lin can just call me Xiaoli. Uncle Tian must have told him the car number, so he immediately confirmed Lin Yi's identity. Hee, Mr. Li can just bring us to the villa, Lin Yi said politely. Young Master Lin, please follow me. Li Yixuan nodded. Do you want me to get in the car? Or do you want to take my car? Li Yixuan said and pointed to a business car parked not far away. Mr. Li, please get in the car. I can drive myself, Lin Yi said. Li Yixuan didn't say much. He got in the car and pointed the way to Lin Yi. It didn't take long for him to arrive in front of a villa by the seaside. This villa had the best view out of all the villas in the area. However, there was a for personal use sign at the door of the villa. It was obviously not open to the public. Young Master Lin, the villa is ready. You can move in now. Li Yixuan said and gave Lin Yi a name card. This is my contact number. If you need anything, young Master Lin can contact me directly. Okay, thank you. Lin Yi took the name card and kept it. Li Yixuan didn't speak much. He nodded and left. This kind of person was important because of his style of doing things. He didn't talk much and didn't ask much. Young Master Lin? Boss, are you really a young master from a rich family? Didn't you say you only have a rich relative? Kong Xiaobo heard Li Yixuan call Lin Yi young Master Lin. He looked at Lin Yi excitedly. Boss, be honest. Are you the rumored rich second generation? Do I look like it? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Your brother is. Hee. Xiaofan. Kong Xiaobo wanted to tease him, but when he looked down, he saw that Xiaofan's face was covered in tears. He was so scared that his heart was about to explode. Xiaofan, don't cry. What's wrong? Lin Yi and Tang Yun heard Kong Xiaobo's voice. They turned around and saw Xiaofan's tear-stained face. However, Lin Yi and Tang Yun didn't know what to say. This was expected. Xiaofan saw Kong Mingming again. Although they didn't meet face to face, just looking at him from afar was enough to shake Xiaofan's fragile heart. Chapter 367. Do you dare? I hope so. Lin Yi nodded. Every family has their own problems. Kong Xiaobo's family is very complicated, and they don't have much of a family relationship. Yeah, a rich family like that can't even compare to us poor families. Tang Yin said. They don't have that much wealth, and they don't have that many problems. Right, how's your brother's situation? Lin Yi suddenly remembered about Tang Yun's cousin. I gave him the money, and he should have returned it already. He hasn't called in the past few days, and I've been busy with Dad's surgery with Mom. Tang Yun said. But don't worry, I'll definitely return the money to you. I don't mean for you to return the money. Don't think too much about it, and tell your brother not to feel too much pressure. Lin Yi said. Yeah. Tang Yun nodded and raised her head. You really don't need me to return it. No need. Lin Yi said. Why are you so nice to me? Tang Yun was a little agitated as she looked at Lin Yi without blinking. Nice. It's not that nice, is it? Lin Yi scratched his head. He couldn't take Tang Yun's direct gaze. Puffed. Tang Yun laughed out loud. It was a serious topic, but Lin Yi's words turned it into a joke. Then do you dare to be nicer to me? Tang Yun wanted to ask Lin Yi if he wanted to be with her for the rest of his life. But Lin Yi's answer made it hard for her to continue asking. It was good that she didn't ask, though. It would save both of them from the awkwardness. Who knew what would happen in the future? For the first time, Tang Yun joked with Lin Yi. Of course. Lin Yi nodded. Haha. Tang Yun laughed happily. Remember what you said. How will you stay at night? Lin Yi suddenly thought of the problem of staying at night. Kong Xiaobo should be accompanying Xiaofan. Then he and Tang Yun. Lin Yi couldn't help but get excited. Could he share a room with Tang Yun? Of course it's me and Xiaofan living together. How could Tang Yun not know what Lin Yi was thinking? She snorted and said, Don't think about those messy things. Before marriage it's impossible. Ugh. Lin Yi sweated. Did Tang Yun see through his thoughts just like that? However, Tang Yun thought that marriage was a bit too much. At least there were many couples living together before marriage. She was afraid that Lin Yi would be disappointed, so she added, At least before you bring me to see your parents, it's impossible. I'm actually an orphan. Lin Yi sighed self-deprecatingly. Ah. Tang Yun widened her eyes and looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. You're an orphan? Yeah. Lin Yi nodded. I don't even know who my real parents are. I'm sorry. Tang Yun didn't think that Lin Yi was an orphan. Then her words were inappropriate. I didn't know you were an orphan. I didn't say anything just now. It's fine. I'm used to it. Lin Yi shook his head indifferently. But my family has an old man who raised me up and a strict master. Speaking of which, they are my elders. I'll bring you to see them when the time comes. Tang Yin saw that Lin Yi wasn't disappointed, and secretly sighed in relief. At the same time, she was happy that Lin Yi planned to bring her to see his old man and master. Although she didn't know who these two people were, she knew that they weren't ordinary people. Otherwise, if Lin Yi was willing to bring her there, it meant that he approved of her. Tang Yin thought that Lin Yi was a rich young master, but she didn't think that he was an orphan. Although Tang Yin knew more about Lin Yi, and knew that he didn't have the temperament of a rich young master, she just thought that it was because he had a good upbringing. She didn't know that his background was like this. However, Tang Yin put down the idea that Lin Yi's family was out of reach. She was afraid that Lin Yi's family was rich, and wouldn't admit her relationship with Lin Yi. Now it seemed that this worry was unnecessary. It made Tang Yin feel much better. "Boss, come in. Xiaofan is asleep." Tang Yin was thinking about Lin Yi's background when Kong Xiaobo ran out and shouted at the car. Tang Yin frowned slightly. She was getting along well with Lin Yi, but it was ruined by Kong Xiaobo. She got out of the car and glared at Kong Xiaobo. "Aren't you afraid of waking Xiaofan up by shouting so loudly?" Kong Xiaobo didn't dare to talk back after being scolded by Tang Yin. He could only explain weakly, "This villa is soundproof." "Humph." Tang Yin snorted and ignored Kong Xiaobo. She walked in front of him and stepped on his foot. Then she walked into the villa. Kong Xiaobo didn't know what happened to Tang Yin. He looked at Lin Yi helplessly. "Boss, what happened to sis-in-law? Why is she so angry?" "How would I know? She was about to kiss me and was interrupted by you." Lin Yi shrugged. "No way. Even this was interrupted by me? It seems like I'm a sinner." Kong Xiaobo looked like he deserved it. "It's over. Sister-in-law's impression of me has worsened." Lin Yi was too lazy to care about him. He locked the car and entered the villa with Kong Xiaobo. Tang Yin was sitting on the sofa in the living room. Xiaofan was lying beside her. She hadn't woken up yet. "What are we eating tonight?" Lin Yi glanced at Tang Yin and asked softly. "Anything. Instant noodles will do. Why don't we wait for Xiaofan to wake up?" Tang Yin looked at the time on her phone. Although it was time for dinner, it wasn't appropriate for her to eat since Xiaofan was asleep. Xiaofan didn't wake up until 8 o'clock at night. The fear in her heart had dissipated, and her spirit had recovered a lot. Hearing that everyone was waiting for her without eating, Xiaofan was very touched. She said embarrassedly, "I'm sorry, I made everyone worry." "Xiaofan, we are actually here to accompany you." "You don't have to worry about us." Tang Yun waved her hand. "We are the happiest that you can walk out of the shadow." "Yeah, Xiaofan, are you hungry? Boss has been waiting for you." Kong Xiaobo also asked. I'm fine with eating anything." Xiaofan shook her head. "Let's eat whatever there is. It's already so late, there shouldn't be anything to eat, right?" Chapter 368. The troublemaker is here. As for tomorrow's birthday banquet, it was an important occasion. Kong Mingming wouldn't be so rude as to make fun of Xiaofan. Although he and Kong Xiaobo were from different branches, they were still part of the Kong family in front of outsiders. If Kong Mingming were to attack Kong Xiaobo, then he would only be a laughingstock. So tomorrow was the best time to bring Xiaofan out, and let her and Kong Mingming end things. After Kong Xiaobo gave the gift, they would leave quickly. "There's instant noodles here. Let's eat first." Lin Yi opened the glass cabinet and took out the instant food. There were instant noodles, instant rice, ham sausages, and other instant food. These people weren't picky people. It didn't matter what they ate as long as there was food to fill their stomachs. After eating the instant noodles, everyone went to rest. Tang Yun supported Xiaofan to a room upstairs, not giving Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo any chance. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't really care. He and Tang Yun weren't really in a relationship, and they didn't express anything. They were just getting closer to each other. They hadn't even kissed yet, so how could they live together? Kong Xiaobo, on the other hand, was slightly disappointed. "How sad. I wanted to get closer to Xiaofan, but I don't have the chance anymore." "There will be chances in the future." Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder. "Xiaofan's not in a good mood today. Even if you want to do something else, she probably won't be in the mood." Why don't you wait for Kong Mingming's matter to be resolved? Once it's over, Xiaofan will be able to open up her heart. Boss, you're right. I was too anxious. Kong Xiaobo sweated. I'll listen to you. Haha. Linny laughed. Let's go, we're going to rest. With that, Linny found a room downstairs and was about to enter when Kong Xiaobo followed. Boss, wait for me. Why are you following me? Linny turned around and asked curiously. Haha, boss, I want to sleep with you, Xiaobo said with a chuckle. Fuck. Linny felt a chill. Don't you like Xiaofan? Ugh. Boss, you misunderstood. I'm very normal. I just want to chat with you. Kong Xiaobo sweated. I'm a little worried about my parents' attitude towards Xiaofan. Linny realized that the guy wasn't worried about his sexual orientation. He was worried about his parents' attitude. Let's chat then, it's nothing. Linny sighed. That's up to you. Fun's a good girl, but she got tricked. I'm sure your parents will understand if you tell them the truth. Yeah, I think so too, but I don't have enough confidence. I've been thinking that I'll talk to them about this when I can make a name for myself with Xiaofan and make them look at me differently. But time waits for no man. Kong Xiaobo sighed. My parents will know about my relationship with Xiaofan tomorrow. I'm afraid they'll object. Haha, it's not impossible for you to make a career. Don't worry, I'll give you a chance soon. Linny was thinking about his spokesperson. It would be a good idea to push Kong Xiaobo out, especially with the fact that Kong Xiaobo was Dr. Kang's relative. Miracle Dr. Guan would be able to make a name for himself in the market. Even patients who didn't believe in Miracle Dr. Guan's medicine would think that Kong Xiaobo also had the golden creation formula after knowing about the relationship between Kong Xiaobo and Dr. Kong. Really? Kong Xiaobo's eyes lit up when he heard Lin Yi's words. He shouted excitedly, Boss, you're too good to me. Hey, go to sleep. We need to be energetic to deal with Kong Mingming tomorrow. Lin Yi reminded him. Yes, I'll go to sleep now. Kong Xiaobo nodded and left, finding a room to sleep in. Lin Yi, Kong Xiaobo, Tang Yin, and Xiaofan left the villa at 9 a.m. the next day. They still had instant noodles for breakfast. Although Li Yixuan wanted to send some food to Lin Yi, the boss didn't tell him, and Lin Yi didn't call. So Li Yixuan didn't want to disturb Lin Yi. The tit-for-tat at the entrance of the resort yesterday made Zhao feel like he had lost a lot of face. He was the direct descendant of Miracle Dr. Kong, and yet he couldn't deal with a side relative. This made him very angry. At night, he found a familiar waiter and asked him to find out which room Kong Xiaobo and the others were staying in. He wanted to bring his men to humiliate them, but he couldn't find out anything. He could only let them go. It was impossible for them not to show up today. It was his grandfather's birthday banquet. Kong Xiaobo and the others would definitely come. Kong Mingming brought his men to wait at the entrance of the banquet hall. When Kong Xiaobo and the others came, he would humiliate them. Do you remember what second young Master Kong said? One of Kong Mingming's men, Zhu Xiaozhang, gave a few bills to the security guards at the entrance and asked them arrogantly. I remember. Don't worry, Zhu bro. A security captain took the bills and said respectfully, Don't call me Zhu bro. Zhu Xiaozhang glared at him. Zhu bro and pig bro had the same pronunciation, which made him a little unhappy. Call me Xiaozhang bro, understand? Xiaozhang bro and arrogant bro had the same pronunciation, so Zhu Xiaozhang preferred people to call him arrogant bro. He was Kong Mingming's #1 lackey. With Kong Mingming's name, he was indeed very arrogant. No one dared to mess with him. Yes, arrogant bro. The security captain quickly said. They're here. Another of Kong Mingming's men, Wang Shubing, had sharp eyes. He saw Lin Yi's broken van driving towards them. He had already memorized the license plate number. Last night, he went back and forth to look for the van, but he couldn't find it. The security captain and the guards who were in charge of guarding the door nodded. The two understood and rushed towards the van, ready to make trouble. Lin Yi was in the van. He saw Kong Mingming and his men talking to each other. They must be planning something. He curled his lips. Xiaobo, Kong Mingming is standing at the door. He will definitely cause trouble later. Be careful. Chapter 369. Why did she come? Chapter 369. Why did she come? N. Xiaofan already knew that Kong Mingming didn't like her at all, and was just playing with her. Kong Mingming would never change his mind. Although Kong Mingming's family moved from Songshan to Donghai, the two cities weren't far apart. He would have come back to see Xiaofan a long time ago if he wanted to. Why would he ignore her? The reason why Xiaofan was so determined to face Kong Xiaoming again was because she wanted to let her subconscious know that Kong Xiaoming was a bad guy. He wasn't her lover at all. Lin Yi parked the car and got out, followed by Kong Xiaobo, Tang Yun, and Xiaofan. You guys, what are you here for? Security pointed at Lin Yi and asked. We're here for the birthday banquet. Kong Xiaobo suppressed his anger and looked at the three security guards. He knew that they were sent by Kong Mingming after Lin Yi's reminder. Xiaofan grabbed onto Kong Xiaobo's hand tightly, not daring to let go. She didn't even dare to look at Kong Mingming. Birthday banquet? Where's the invitation? Take it out. Security extended his hand and asked. I'm here for my second grandpa's birthday banquet. Why would I need an invitation? Kong Xiaobo frowned. Your second grandpa? Who's your second grandpa? I think you're all liars, aren't you? The security captain spoke up with a slanted glance. My second grandpa is Dr. Kong. Kong Xiaobo was getting impatient. Don't be instigated by others. Instigate? What are you talking about? The security captain was angered. Look at you guys dressed like this, wearing rags that only cost tens of kwai. Who would believe that Dr. Kong is your second grandpa? And you're here for the birthday banquet? I think you're all liars, right? Are you here to scam food and drink? Who are you calling a liar? Kong Xiaobo was anxious. Lin Yi tugged at Kong Xiaobo, motioning him to calm down. He glanced at the security captain and said lightly, What's your name? What the fuck do you care about my name? I'm telling you, you liars should leave as soon as possible, or I'll call the police. The security captain sneered and did not answer Lin Yi's words. Looks like I have to give brother Li Yixuan a call. Why are the security guards under him so high class? Kick the guests out? Lin Yi shook his head in disdain and reached into his pocket. Where did I put the business card? Oh, here it is. Seeing that Lin Yi mentioned Li Yixuan's name, and really took out Li Yixuan's name card to make a call, the security captain was immediately dumbfounded. Of course, he knew what kind of person Li Yixuan was. He was the confidant of the big boss, President Tian. In this resort, when President Tian was not around, he was President Tian's spokesperson. Not to mention that he was just a small security captain. Even the security captain, or the security manager, was nothing in front of Li Yixuan. Previously, when he helped Kong Mingming to cause trouble for Lin Yi, the security captain was only doing it for the sake of money. But on Lin Yi's side, it was not as simple as money. If he offended Kong Mingming at most, he would lose his money. If he offended Lin Yi, he would lose his job. Big brother. Don't call. I have eyes but failed to recognize you. Please don't lower yourself to my level. The security captain was about to cry. It turned out that the person who drove the broken van was the real god. He knew Li Yixuan, even if their relationship was not that good, and they were just friends. Li Yixuan would definitely not offend Lin Yi for a small security captain like him. In Li Yixuan's eyes, he was just an insignificant person. If he was fired, there would be too many people who would want to replace him. On the other side, on Kong Mingming's side, they did not notice the conversation between Lin Yi and the security captain. The person they were paying attention to was Xiaofan, who was beside Kong Xiaobo. Second young Master Kong, look at the woman beside your idiot brother. Why does she look like the woman you used to play with? Zhu Xiaozhang pointed at Xiaofan and said in surprise. You don't say. But it really looks like that little slut Lan Fun. Kong Mingming also widened his eyes in disbelief. Wasn't she killed by a car? Why is she still alive? I don't know. I gave the driver 500,000 yuan to kill her. Why didn't she die? Zhu Xiaozhang also thought it was strange. I spent 500,000 yuan for nothing. Xiaozhang, don't mention this anymore. Kong Mingming glared at him. How could he casually talk about hiring someone to kill someone? Fortunately, the three of them had done bad things together, so no one could criticize each other. Zhu Xiaozong and Wang Shubing were involved in Xiaofun's incident. Hehe, it's just the three of us. Zhu Xiaozong also felt that he had said something wrong. This matter really couldn't be casually talked about. If it was spread out, he would go to jail. But thinking about it, Xiaofun's family didn't have much power and was extremely poor. Even if they heard this rumor, they couldn't do anything to them. Why is Xiaofun here? Doesn't she know that I am Kong Xiaobo's brother? Kong Mingming was curious about Xiaofun's purpose of coming here. Logically speaking, if Xiaofun knew that he was Kong Xiaobo's cousin, she wouldn't come here to embarrass herself. He didn't think that Xiaofun was here to cause trouble. Since she dared to come here to cause trouble, it was impossible for her to get any benefits. He wouldn't give it to her. She shouldn't be stupid. She wouldn't come here to embarrass herself, right? I was worried that I couldn't find a reason to humiliate them. Let's go and humiliate them. Zhu Xiaozhong smiled and suggested, let's go and see what this bitch wants to do. Kong Mingming also wanted to see what Xiaofun was here for. You guys move aside first. Zhu Xiaozhong waved his hand at the security team leader, indicating that there was nothing for them to do. Zhu Xiaozhong's attention was on Xiaofun. He didn't see what happened between Lin Yi and the security team leader. He thought that they were humiliated badly. Yes. The security team leader was thinking about how to leave, but Zhu Xiaozhong came and gave him a chance to leave. If he didn't leave now, when would he leave? The security team leader quickly left with his subordinates. This kind of family's internal conflict wasn't something an outsider could participate in. Although it seemed that Kong Xiaobo's side was at a disadvantage, they actually knew Li Yixuan. The security team leader regretted it. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have gotten involved for a few hundred yuan. Am I supposed to raise her all the time? Although my family is rich, the number of women that I dumped is at least 80. If I bring all of them home to raise, I'll be poor. Hearing Kong Mingming's shameless words, Xiaofun finally couldn't hold back her tears. He was too shameless, destroying the last bit of hope in Xiaofun's heart. Even if he calmly said that he didn't like her anymore, so they broke up, Xiaofun could still accept it. But Kong Mingming said that she was a fool. He said that she gave everything for him was a fool. Xiaofun cried, she cried sadly. How can you say that? I already knew that you're not a good person. I should have forcefully broken you guys up. Tang Yun was infuriated as well. She pointed at Kong Xiaoming, the heartless bastard, and couldn't help but curse. You are too wicked. I was wondering who it was. Isn't this Tang Yun? I haven't seen you for a few years. You've gotten prettier? Why is this your boyfriend? He's just S.O. Kong Mingming glanced at Lin Yi with a hint of jealousy. Back then, he failed to pursue Tang Yun, so he changed to pursue Xiaofun. He was still brooding over the fact that he didn't get Tang Yun. Driving this broken car is really degrading. Tang Yun, I didn't expect your taste to be so bad. That's right. Follow our second young master Kong. I'll buy you a 200,000 yuan car tomorrow. Zhu Xiaozhong jumped out and promised to Tang Yun. You won't have a future if you follow this idiot. Lin Yi didn't want to get involved in Kong Xiaobo's family business. No matter what, it was his family business. Letting him settle it himself was the best solution. Lin Yi was only a bystander. He only needed to watch Xiaofun's illness. But he did not expect that this Zhu Xiaozhong diverted the trouble to someone else and bullied his head. If Lin Yi could endure being called an idiot, he wouldn't be Lin Yi. Pa! A crisp slap flew over, causing Zhu Xiaozhong to stumble on the ground. Zhu Xiaozhong cried out in pain. He spun 3 times on the ground and spat out 2 bloody teeth. His cheeks instantly swelled up like a steamed bun. Security! Arrest them! Xiaozhong was stunned by the slap, and when he came back to his senses, he started yelling incoherently. How dare Lin Yi hit him? The security captain was hiding far away, watching the confrontation between the 2 groups of House Kong. He wanted to watch the show, but he didn't think that Zhu Xiaozhong would get slapped by Lin Yi. That wasn't a big deal. But the problem was that Zhu Xiaozhang called for security after getting slapped. The security captain was in a difficult position. He regretted not running far away. Now he was in a dilemma. If he went, he would definitely offend Lin Yi. He didn't know what kind of relationship this guy had with Li Yixuan. Offending him wouldn't end well. But they couldn't ignore Zhu Xiaozhang's call. They had just received a few hundred kuayan tips from Zhu Xiaozhang. It wouldn't be right to turn their backs on him so quickly. Moreover, Zhu Xiaozhang was staring at them. As the security guards of the resort, they had to show up. Just as the security captain was in a dilemma, another group of security guards ran over. One of them was a fat security captain. When he heard Zhu Xiaozhang's call for help, he rushed over. "Brother Xiaozhang, what's wrong?" This fat security captain was called Zhong Dingwei. He was the captain in charge of the banquet hall's security. He had received a 2,000 kuai red packet from the Kong family, so he did his best for the Kong family. Chapter 371. Another slap. "That kid, he hit me. Take him to the security room and teach him a lesson." Zhu Xiaozhang held his cheek as he mumbled, "He's here to cause trouble." Zhu Xiaozhang was furious, but no one had dared to hit him since he'd been a lackey for Kong Mingming for so many years. As the saying goes, you need to look at the owner before you hit a dog. Naturally, people had to give face to Kong Mingming, but he wasn't an idiot. He only told the security to take Lin Yi away, not Kong Xiaobo. No matter what, Kong Xiaobo was still a member of House Kong. Humiliating him was fine, but beating him up would be a big deal. It'd be hard to explain it to Dr. Kong if he asked. Everyone knew that Dr. Kong cared about his face the most. Putting aside how he treated Kong Xiaobo's family in private, he still had to act respectfully on the surface. Otherwise, he wouldn't have invited Kong Xiaobo's family to his birthday party. The captain of the security team, Zhong Dingwei, looked at Lin Yi as he made up his mind. The kid's clothes were all cheap, and he didn't look like he had any background or status. "Kid, how dare you cause trouble in Moon on the Sea Resort? You've got guts. Come with us." Lin Yi. Tang Yin was a little nervous. She pulled on Lin Yi's arm, not wanting him to leave. Although Lin Yi had beaten up the Big Four in school, that was still a school. They were in society now, and these security guards clearly didn't have good intentions. Would Lin Yi be able to come back if he went with them? Lin Yi squeezed Tang Yin's hand and whispered into her ear, "It'll be fine. Don't forget that I know their boss." Tang Yin's ears went soft from Lin Yi's whispers. She blushed and looked at him. Even at a time like this, he still didn't forget to play tricks on her. Lin Yi was right. He knew the boss here. What was there to be afraid of? Zhong Dingwei saw that Lin Yi was ignoring him and whispering to the girl beside him. His face darkened. This was provocation and contempt. "You think you're awesome? I'm talking to you. Didn't you hear me?" Zhong Dingwei reached out to pull Lin Yi's collar, but Lin Yi pushed him aside. "Where did the dog come from? Are you retarded? Which eye of yours saw me hit him?" "I'd say he hit himself." Lin Yi laughed coldly. His eyes suddenly turned to where the security captain was hiding. "Don't you think so?" The captain didn't get along with Zhong Dingwei. He wanted to see Zhong Dingwei make a fool of himself. He didn't think that Lin Yi would ask him to come out and testify. Cold sweat formed on the captain's forehead. He didn't dare offend Lin Yi, but he'd just accepted Zhu Xiaozhang's money. He'd be offending both sides if he kept his mouth shut, and wouldn't be getting any favors from either side. The captain made up his mind. He already had a grudge against Zhong Dingwei. So what if he helped Lin Yi testify? Hence he rushed out and pointed at Zhu Xiaozhang. "I saw it. He hit himself." "Zhong Dingwei, you're the captain of the banquet hall. I'm in charge of the security outside. Why are you sticking your nose in?" "Ah!" Zhong Dingwei blinked. "Zhu Xiaozhang hit himself? Is this for real?" However, when he saw Zhu Xiaozhang's vicious eyes, he understood. Zhu Xiaozhang definitely didn't hit himself. Who would be so stupid as to hit themselves for fun? "Old Sui, this has nothing to do with you. Do you want to testify? Do you know who Mr. Zhu Xiaozhang is? He's second young Master Kang's." Before Zhong Dingwei finished, he was interrupted by Lin Yi. It's just a dog. Lin Yi curled his lips. Ha 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 ha. Kong Xiaobo laughed. In this situation, Lin Yi still dared to make such a joke. This made Kong Xiaobo feel very refreshed. All this time, Kong Xiaoming had always been the one suppressing him. But now, the people on his side were being trampled by Lin Yi. The most amazing thing was that someone came to testify. Zhu Xiaozhang's face turned the color of pig liver. Kong Mingming's face didn't look too good either. He didn't know where this Lin Yi came from. How could he make old Sui, the captain of the security team, betray him? Kid, who the fuck are you? Do you believe that I won't let you leave Moon on the sea? Zhu Xiaozhang was going crazy. When had he ever been humiliated like this? He came here to humiliate Kong Xiaobo and Lanfun. He didn't expect to be humiliated by someone else. If he didn't get his revenge, he wouldn't be able to raise his head in the upper class of Donghai. Slap. It was another loud slap. But this time, no one saw Lin Yi make a move. This time, Zhu Xiaozhang's swollen face was on the right side. According to the palm print, he was hit with his left hand. But now, Lin Yi's left hand was holding Tang Yun's hand. You dare hit me? Captain Zhong, did you see this? He was the one who hit me. Hurry up and bring him back. We have a witness here. Let's see if he still won't admit it. Zhu Xiaozhang bared his fangs and brandished his claws as he yelled. All of you keep an eye on him. I'll teach him a lesson after the banquet ends. But this time, Kong Mingming and Wang Shubin didn't speak up for Zhu Xiaozhang. Zhong Dingwei, on the other hand, was stunned. The first slap was indeed from Lin Yi. But who was the one who did the second slap? Lin Yi's left hand was holding Tang Yun's hand. This was a fact that everyone saw. Plus, no one saw him make a move. What's wrong with you guys? Zhu Xiaozhang waited for a while, but Zhong Dingwei didn't move. Kong Mingming and Wang Shubin didn't say anything either. He felt that something was wrong. You really are a lackey. You only have the IQ of a dog. Lin Yi looked at Zhu Xiaozhang with sympathy. You're starting to get delusional. There are so many people here, and no one saw me hit you. But you're saying that I hit you. You're hopeless. I suggest you buy some retarded pills. Maybe it will increase your IQ. Ha 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 ha. Xiaobo started laughing heartily. He'd never felt so proud of himself before. And seeing Zhu Xiaozhang and the others get humiliated was incredibly satisfying. Even Fun, who'd been crying a while ago, had a smile on her face. She too felt like she'd vented her anger. But now that Zhu Xiaozhang was yelling like this, there was no doubt that Zhu Xiaozhang was the one who bribed Zhong Dingwei, and that he was beating himself up. Li Yixuan's gloomy gaze stopped on Dingwei Zhong's face. Go back to the security office and write a self-reflection. If you can't do it, then get out. How could Dingwei dare to say no? He ran away with his tail between his legs, leaving the furious Zhu Xiaozhang behind. If he didn't get over this, he would always be Kong Mingming's substitute. This made Kong Xiaobo very uncomfortable. And it was also the reason why he insisted on bringing Xiaofan to see Kong Mingming. But at this moment, Kong Xiaobo knew that Xiaofan had already confessed to him and expressed her feelings. How could Kong Xiaobo not be excited? Young Master Lin, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Call me if there's anything. Li Yixuan saw that there was nothing else for him to do, so he nodded to Lin Yi and said politely. Lin Yi nodded. Sorry to trouble you, Brother Li. Li Yixuan gestured that it was nothing and left on the electric scooter. Lin Yi, Tang Yun, Kong Xiaobo, and Xiaofan walked into the banquet hall, and the crowd followed them. Among these people, there were people who knew Kong Xiaobo and Kong Ming, and knew that they were cousins. They only treated the conflict between the younger generation of the Kong family as a joke. Dr. Kang's birthday banquet was a Western-style buffet. Kong Xiaobo brought Lin Yi to a corner of the banquet hall. Actually, the purpose of this time was achieved. Xiaofan saw Kong Mingming's true colors and let her walk out of the shadow in her heart, allowing her to have a new life. After entering the banquet hall, Xiaofan's mood was a little down. She must have been affected by the previous incident. Although she was completely disappointed in Kong Mingming, anyone who encountered such an incident would feel bad. Especially after being stupid for so many years, persevering for so many years, and in the end, it was all for naught. Anyone would feel uncomfortable. Tang Yin persuaded Xiaofan softly, but this kind of thing didn't need anyone to persuade her. She would be fine after a few days. Boss, since we're here, it's not good for us to leave immediately. But after the younger generation celebrates the birthday, we can leave directly. I don't want to stay here for another minute. Kong Xiaobo was extremely disgusted with Kong Mingming's face. Is that person your father? Lin Yi didn't answer Kong Xiaobo's question. Instead, he pointed at a middle-aged man not far away. Beside him was Kong Mingming, who was gesticulating and saying something. It's my dad, but what is Kong Mingming doing? Kong Xiaobo was stunned. He didn't understand why Kong Mingming went to look for his father. Could it be that he went to complain? Kong Mingming couldn't be such a coward, right? After being humiliated at the entrance, he went to complain to the adults? I'm guessing that it's about Xiaofan. Lin Yi frowned. I didn't expect Kong Mingming to be so mean. He actually went to your dad and said bad things about Xiaofan. Fuck his 18 generations of ancestors. Kong Xiaobo was furious. If what Lin Yi said was true, then wasn't Kong Mingming a little too despicable? Ha! His 18 generations of ancestors. Isn't it your 18 generations of ancestors? Lin Yi smiled. Actually, it's nothing. You should think about it. You will have to tell your parents about this matter sooner or later. After he said this, you can tell your parents about Xiaofan's experience. I think they aren't unreasonable people. Lin Yi saw that Kong Xiaobo's father was a good person. Although he wanted to save some face, he wasn't a cold-hearted bad person. As long as he was reasonable and moved by his emotions, it wouldn't be difficult for him to accept Xiaofan. Really? Kong Xiaobo heard Lin Yi's words and was overjoyed. Bro, you aren't lying to me, right? Why would I lie to you? Lin Yi shook his head. If it doesn't work, I can help you. Lin Yi's understanding of people's hearts was very accurate. He could help Kong Xiaobo. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.